Live, okay. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Sparta Township Planning Board. Thank you for those of us joining here and online. For the record, this meeting is being held on September 17th, 2025 at 7:03 PM in the Sparta Township Municipal Building located at 65 Main Street, Sparta, New Jersey. And the live stream can be viewed at www.youtube.com/SpartaTWP. Please note that adequate public notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. No new business to be conducted after 9:30 PM, and the meeting will end promptly at 10. Let us begin with a salute to our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We begin tonight's meeting with approval of minutes.
We gotta go back to roll call. really quick.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. This is what happens when you're back in the seat. Sorry, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Brian Zimmerman,
Here.
Jeanette Burke. Here. Ernie Reichstad,
Here.
Vice Chairman Rob Otto,
Here.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano.
Here.
Birgit Bogler.
Here.
Ron Day,
Here.
Councilman Mark Scott,
Here.
Joan Furman.
Here.
Christine Dunbar.
Okay. Now we'll begin with the approval of minutes. We have several sets here. We'll start with June 7th, 2023. Those who are eligible to vote are Jeanette Burke, Ron Day, Christine Dunbar, Celeste Luciano, Ernie Ragsted. Does anyone have any questions or comments with regard to these minutes?
I just have one comment. First, I want to say what a great job on the catch-up. There's a lot of minutes here. Gone through them all. This is the only one that I really had an issue with, trying to follow it. And I felt that for someone that wasn't here, it'd be hard for them to pick it up. I think the other minutes were different. They were easier to follow. So I had a hard time with this one. So I have a hard time, saying yes to this, but see how everyone else feels.
Did anyone else feel the same way about the June 7th, 2023 minutes?
Well, who was here in 2023?
As I mentioned, the people who are eligible to vote are Jeanette Burke, Ron Day, Christine Dunbar, myself, and Ernie Ragsted.
I think part of the problem, Ron, is that it's a pretty lengthy document,
Yes.
and it doesn't, it's not as broken up, but I didn't really have any trouble following it, just that there's a lot here.
Yep.
Any suggestions on how that could potentially be clearer?
No, I wish I did, with all the data we got for this meeting. I was hoping to get back to this one. This is the one thing I just couldn't get back to.
Would you prefer we table this until next session?
This one I'd like to, and I'd be willing to put suggestions in between now and the next meeting if that helps.
That makes sense? Okay, so we will hold the minutes of June 7th, 2023 until next session.
I think maybe having a couple paragraph breaks, lines in between might help to break up
Yeah,
subject by subject. It's kind of,
I see what you're saying.
it just keeps going and going. You don't know where we're going from one thought to the other.
But again, I want to reiterate, great job getting all the rest of these done. That's a big chunk.
Okay, so we move forward to June 21st, 2023 minutes. Those eligible to vote are Jeanette Burke, Ron Day, Christine Dunbar, Celeste Luciano, and Ernie Ragsted. Any questions or comments on these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the June 21, 2023 minutes.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Jeanette Burke,
Yes.
Ron Day,
Yes.
Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad.
Yes.
Okay, moving forward to July 19th, 2023, eligible to vote are Jeanette Burke, Ron Day, Celeste Luciano, and Ernie Ragsted. Any questions or comments with regard to these minutes? Okay, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve
Second?
these
I'll
are, the- what did we say, the
July 19th.
July 19th, 2023 minutes as submitted.
I'll second it.
Jeanette Burke.
Yes.
Ron Day.
Yes,
Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad.
Yes.
Okay, moving forward to the August 2nd, 2023 minutes. Eligible to vote are Ron Day, Christine Dunbar, Celeste Luciano, and Ernie Ragsdad. Questions or comments regarding these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the August 2nd, 2023 minutes.
I'll second it.
Ron Day.
Yes,
Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad.
Yes.
Moving forward to August 16th, 2023, eligible to vote Jeanette Burke, Ron Day, Christine Dunbar, Celeste Luciano, and Ernie Ragsdad.
I have no
Questions and comments?
Nope.
None? Okay. Motion and a second, please.
I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second them. Ron Day?
Jeanette Burke.
Yes.
Ron Day.
Yes,
Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad.
Yes.
Okay, moving forward to the June 5th, 2024 minutes. Eligible to vote are Joan Furman, Ernie Ragsdad, and Brian Zimmerman. Any questions or comments regarding these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve. Joan Furman.
I'll second it.
Joan Furman.
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad.
Yes.
Brian Zimmerman.
Yes.
Okay, moving forward to July 16th, 2025. Eligible to vote Jeanette Burke, Ernie Ragsdad, Brian Zimmerman, Ron Day, Joan Furman, Mark Scott, Robert Otto, Celeste Luciano, and Christine Dunbar. Any questions or comments?
I've got two comments. The first one, I thought there was a lot of quotations, he said, he said, what, he said, she said, where it became more like transcripts. And I felt some of it was taken out of context. So again, my intent was to try to get back and make recommendations. I just didn't have the time to do that with all the data we've received over the last couple of days. The other thing is, the second question is, I know we've been approving minor site plan subcommittee minutes with the intent of they're going to get attached to the minutes. I think for 2023, we did a year end. I think as we're starting to go back and approve these monthly, we got to remind ourselves to attach the minor site plan subcommittee minutes as they've been approved, I think, at each meeting. So I'd like to suggest we table this one and just look at the language a little bit, making sure everyone's okay with what was said in there, how it was said, and it's being done in the proper context. And then also to add the minor site plan subcommittee minutes.
Any other comments or any?
Is that a motion?
I motion that.
I'll second that motion.
Have the minor site plan subcommittee minutes been posted anywhere online for the public to view?
They're posted with the minutes as an attachment. After you have your meeting for minor site plan, they get attached to it when you guys approve
So
it.
if we go back to, let's say, July 16th or whatever, they will be on there?
They will be on
Okay.
after they're approved. That's correct. So that was a first and a second to approve them based upon those suggestions or to table it? I'm sorry.
Table it, I'm
To
sorry.
table it.
Do we really need a roll call to table it? I think that could be a yay or nay. All those who
July
are willing to
16th.
table?
Yeah.
Since we have a motion and a second?
Okay.
Okay, so we're tabling the minutes for June 7th, 2023, and for July 16th, 2025, until our next meeting, which is October 1st, 25.
Thank you.
Problem. So with regard to our public hearings, we do have on our agenda the Sparta Smoke Shop and Mediterranean Cuisine. However, they, their legal counsel is unable to attend. Wait, I'm sorry, that is the wrong, no, that is the right one. Is unable to attend due to an illness, and they were unsuccessful in arranging a substitute. So they are asking to carry until our next meeting, October 1st. Ken?
Yeah, so Board, you have the ability to grant that, you could say, without new notice, so that people in the audience would be so noticed, or also online. The request to October 1st, as long as Dory and the Board is comfortable that there's room on that date, you could move it to a different date and then request the consent of the applicant if for an additional time. But let's first see if you're okay with October 1st, 2025, without new notice. If there's any discussion on that, any concern?
Dory, at this stage, do we know whether or not the agenda for October 1st is capable of handling that?
It would be capable of handling that. Yeah. Would be no different than this evening. If we have the two applications that need to carry, it would be the same as tonight, because those are the only two that we have right now.
Okay.
Procedural question, though, if we start with the new applicant here and they are coming at the next meeting in October, would we continue to hear the applicant that has started, in which case the smoke shop may not get heard? How would that work?
It's at the agenda set by the chair, so.
So Celeste, how would that work?
How it's worked in the past is that, well, first off, we don't know whether or not they're going to be prepared to be heard on the first. We're they're asking for that right now. But if this hearing were to continue, we would complete this hearing before we picked that back up.
So as long as
How
they
it's
know
happened in
that.
the past, yes.
That makes sense. I mean, we could determine that when we get closer to October 1st. But the issue is whether the board wants to approve the request of the applicant for a minor site plan approval, application 25-736, Sparta Smoke Shop and the Sparta Mediterranean Cuisine located in 514 Lafayette Road. There's a request to carry it to October 1st, 2025, without new notice.
One more question, how does that affect the 45-day review?
The applicant has put on the letter, written consent for extension will be provided, which implies that there would be no automatic approval.
So they could get carried if they're not heard that day? Again?
They could get carried, or the hard line approach
I just don't want to be boxed in.
Right, the hard line approach is you deny the application as being not ready, and then they have to start over. So I would never put you in a situation where an automatic approval would be in place. They have agreed to the extension to October 1st without new notice. But again, at a certain point, the board, and you may say, we can't carry it anymore, you need to give new notice. It becomes unfair to the people in the public and the virtual audience also. We're not there yet. So the question is, if someone wanted to move or second the request without new notice of that application to October 1st.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call, please.
Birgit Bogler,
Yes.
Jeanette Burke,
Yes.
Ron Day,
Yes?
Joan Furman,
Yes?
Ernie Ragsdad,
Yes.
Councilman Mark Scott, Brian Zimmerman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Robert Otto,
Yes.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
All right, so those either online or in the public, in the audience here today, the application of the Sparta Smoke Shop, Sparta Mediterranean Cuisine at 514 Lafayette Road is being carried to the October 1st, 2022 regular scheduled meeting at 7 o'clock. No new notice will be provided. Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to our application PB number 25-737 Sparta Holdings LLC, 11 and 13 Aaron Way, block 16001, lots 16 and 17 in the ED zone preliminary site plan.
Before we start, I have a question, if that's okay. The application form that we have is probably, 40, 50 years old. And it just asks for projects, with a description, and it's a one-word, warehousing. And today we got something that said that it is going to be open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And I know there are many types of warehousing, but this begs the bigger question, if this is going to be open nonstop, and it's not really, I haven't heard it yet, so I don't know about the storage and everything, but the nonstop, I just want to take a step back and question whether in fact we really do have jurisdiction of this, because I don't want to get caught into a situation as we have in the past. So I am going to question the jurisdiction, and I look for guidance.
And if you wouldn't mind opining?
Sure. Counselor, as you just heard the issues that raised, I know there's a lot of correspondence between the engineers. If you could kindly respond.
Yes, thank you. This is an application for a warehouse, a rail-dependent warehouse. There'll be testimony as far as where the property is located, why it makes sense to incorporate rail siding to it. And we are aware that a tenant will have to come back in front of this board or another board for approval as far as the particulars of hours of operation and whatnot. Although our proposal doesn't necessarily limit the 24/7, 365, I don't think that's what would ultimately be approved for a tenant. That being said, we are working with the railroad to find the right tenant to utilize this space. We're a little bit limited on being able to market that. You'll hear testimony regarding that. And it's our anticipation that the tenant would come back in front of the board with respect to the conditions and limitations on hours of operation, specifically traffic versus rail use. But the design and intent of this warehouse project is to be rail dependent as opposed to trucking dependent, if you will. It's for long-term storage. It is a warehouse.
Do professionals have any comments on that usage of 365 days a year, 24 hours, and how that fits, particularly the traffic and Brian Intandola?
All right, if you could, for the record, we have Brian Intandola from Neglia Engineering. Mr. Intandola, can you raise your right hand, please? Solemnly swear to tell the truth or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do. For the
Name
record,
and professional licenses for the record, please.
Brian Intandola, principal at Neglia Group, serving as the Director of Traffic Engineering, and currently licensed in the state of New Jersey, and serve in this capacity as consultant to boards. I guess 12 active right now, and incidental as needed. So to restate the question, based on what the board member had asked, if it's 365 days a year, or 24 hours a day, does that fall within your definition? I don't know if your definition precludes it. I didn't see it in your, the warehouse, the rail-dependent warehouse definitions, or limiting the hours of use. So I don't think there was a precluder or an hour.
No, but it talks to intensity, and the warehouse is defined as long-term storage. And
I can probably help because I originally raised the issue of jurisdiction of this application. So this is located in the Economic Development Zone, which permits scientific research and development laboratories, office buildings for business, professional, executives, and administrative purposes, storage buildings, and warehousing with wholesale storage, subject to the definition of warehouse, which shall not include distribution center uses, fulfillment centers, or parcel hubs, standalone or outdoor storage of any kind, and standalone parking facilities. So then you reference back to the warehouse definition, which says a building where raw materials or finished goods are stored, where the primary purpose of the facility is extended storage of product and typically have a low volume of tractor trailer and non-tractor trailer vehicle traffic. Any building where storage or product is the primary use that contains dock doors on not more than one and a partial second side of the building shall be considered a warehouse, not a distribution center. So then you also go back to the definition of dock door. There was a lot of research into this and a lot of conversations. And to go to dock door, we have quite a few definitions here. A type of sectional door used located on a building facade above grade, which allows tractor trailer doors to open into the building for the loading and unloading of material goods. So based on those definitions alone, we felt that it was within the jurisdiction of the planning board. However, if testimony is brought up this evening and we do determine that what is being presented does not meet that requirements, I believe the applicant is aware that this could potentially then be told to go to the zoning board, since we would not be able to make a decision since we don't have jurisdiction over D variances.
All right, so if we can just be clear, counsel, your application today is for a warehouse, is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And you do not have a tenant as of today.
That is correct, sir.
So as far as the use at the site, you are only requesting a site plan approval with a presumption that the use would be within the four corners of an approval ordinance currently in Sparta.
Yes, sir, and we designed it that way to fall within the definition of a warehouse, specifically with respect to the number of dock doors, for example, where on the building they are located, and other definitions which we, specifically were designed to be classified as a warehouse under the rules and definitions of the ordinances of Sparta Township.
And I believe you also acknowledge that as far as the new tenant, or could be a new owner, the time, place, and manner of the operation by way of whether they be 24 hours a day, 365, that the board is not waiving their right to public health, safety, and welfare as to that, and I think you acknowledge that.
Not only do we acknowledge it, but we've had discussions with the railroad saying, the appropriate tenant that we do find is going to have to come back in front of Sparta Township specifically to present what they intend to do, with the understanding that there may be limitations placed upon them. We're not asking for any waiver of the board to have further comment or input with respect to hours of operation.
And counsel, just so it's clear, you can see the concerns of the board as far as the issue of 365 days a year open and 24 hours open 7 days a week. Can we leave it that both parties reserve their rights as to whatever that would be?
Sir.
And the primary purpose of the facility is extended storage of products?
Extended storage inside of the structure, extended storage of products, yes.
Well, if it's extended storage, why would you need 24/7 access?
You probably wouldn't, sir.
I mean, this seems like it's more of a logistics facility.
It is not, sir. It is a warehouse.
It makes sense to let the applicant.
Yeah, right.
present.
Are they presenting?
The
Yeah.
question is,
Sure.
Okay. Is asked and answered, and the testimonial show any other information that we need.
So board, I'm satisfied from a legal perspective that the applicant is confirming they are seeking warehouse approval within the four corners of your existing ordinances, and that as far as the new tenant would be subject to site plan review, and the issues of time, place, and manner by way of 365 days, 7 days a week would be reserved until that tenant review, and that's all I have. Thank you.
May I just ask that council speak into the microphone for the listeners at home?
Did you want us to use these microphones?
You can
Whichever.
either use the one that's on the desk, and of course, move it back and forth between you, or you can use the handhelds.
Sure,
Either
thank you very much. Madam Chairwoman, did you want me to proceed with
Please.
our presentation? And do appreciate the board's time, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is David Gray. I'm an attorney at Gray Law Group, and I represent the applicant. The applicant here is called Sparta Holdings LLC. The owner of the applicant is here, and it's our intention to ask that he be sworn in to give a little insight into the application and what it's all about and what we're doing here this evening and why we're designing an application and presenting it in this way. We also have with us our engineer who's prepared to testify. We have an architect as well. We have an environmental expert, David Kruger. We have a traffic engineer, and we have a planner. So that is our intention. And Madam Chairwoman, I'm not familiar with how exactly you run meetings, but I guess we would prefer to put all our testimony on and have questions after that. But of course, whatever the board desires, we will certainly comply with.
So typically, after each witness testifies, we then open it up to our professionals for any questions for that particular witness. We open it up to the dais, and then we open it up to the public. And we do that progressively for each witness.
Right, so I'm going to start with the applicant, the owner of the LLC. And I would ask if, Madam Chairwoman, you open it up to questions, please understand that the details and specifics of the design and the intricacies of definitions will be addressed by our professionals, and you might get better answers on those professional questions from our professionals that will be presenting. So at this time, I would respectfully ask that Thomas Schoonmaker, the owner of Sparta Holdings LLC, be sworn in.
Thomas, raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. And Thomas, spell your last name, please.
SCHOONMAKER.
And just your professional address, or you can give home whatever your professional address is.
Which one do you got there?
Or give your business address, please.
Which one? Yes, 22 Howard, yes, that's our corporate.
Okay, go ahead, counsel.
Thank you. And please, if the microphone cuts out, just. Sir, you're the owner of Sparta Holdings LLC, is that correct?
Correct.
And you own the property, which is, it's at lot 16 and 17 and block 16001 in Sparta. That's Aaron Way, right?
Correct.
And can you briefly explain to the board where on Aaron Way, behind the ShopRite, these lots are located?
If you go down White Lake Road, past the first entrance to the first industrial park and to the more recently built one, you make a right on Aaron Way, and we're all the way down on the end, the last two, about 8 acres on the very end, right on the railroad.
And right on the railroad, and your proposal here is for a railroad-dependent warehouse, is that correct?
Correct.
And we'll get into more specifics, but it's a 76,500 square foot warehouse with a railroad siding, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And can you explain a little bit about your efforts and activities with the railroad, the company that is the railroad, specifically the New York Susquehanna and Western Railway Corporation, and a little bit of your history with them?
I've been, adjacent to them now for quite a while. Got to know them pretty well. I'm actually friends with the president of the railroad. I go up to their picnics, and we I do a lot of things with them. They give me a lot of insight, and they have a lot of people that have shown interest in the property with the rail sidings. Other than that, they've been very helpful, nice people, and it's been a real good relationship that I've had to date with them.
And sir, could you give the board a little bit of insight into your professional history and experience with warehouses in general?
Yeah, I've been doing this work for probably 40 years, and on different warehouses and all up in Hudson County and Morris County, everywhere, and that's what we do on a regular basis. As a contractor, we do that, and then we just figured we might do it for ourselves someday, and this is where we're at.
Now, if the approval is granted by this board, what would your intention be on how you market the property with the railroad? What would you do if an approval is granted?
First of all, I can't market anything without having approval in which I have something to market, right? So if we were to get approved, I would go to the railroad, and they have many, many people that look all the time. They have a big nationwide service that they make available to me, and we can choose from quite a few tenants that would be willing to, that want to come. I have a lot of people call me all the time. I have actually 2 people now that are keep calling. But I would like to work with the railroad, and that's it. They've got some pretty good tenants. I mean, financially capable tenants, and we need to get approval before we can market something, right?
And would you make it clear to the tenants that this is for storage of warehousing items, indoor, not outdoor?
Yes, whatever our requirements here in town are for this is from working on this now for 6 months or a year, we've tried to meet every aspect of the rules and regulations of the zone, under this definition. And the building was designed that way, and we plan to utilize it that way.
In fact, you're not even asking for any variances on the application at this time, as far as we see it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you explain a little bit about how this application would contribute to local economic development with respect to jobs or ratables?
Well, we do the earthwork, so we would be doing the earthwork, but I have 2 local contractors that are right in the area that I plan to use for the electrical and concrete. My neighbor is a steel erector. He would do that and, pretty much have it handled right here in town,
You say your neighbor, you're a Sparta guy, aren't you?
Yes.
Born and raised?
Yep. No,
Well,
no.
not born and raised, but
Been
how
here
long have you lived in Sparta?
35 years.
A little bit came up about the hours of operation. Would you agree that any tenant you have would have to come back before the board and explain hours of operation and be subject to a reasonable accommodation with respect to the time, place, and manner of their operation?
Yes, correct. I mean, you'll get your chance to go through whomever that is, but I'm going to try to pick that person the best I can right up front, knowing everything that we all know. And I'm certainly not going to suggest that they work 24/7, 365 days a year. I don't know anybody that does that anymore. So, yeah, that's, it's not a problem, not a problem.
All right. And just briefly, with respect to this application, it's a 76,500 square foot warehouse. We'll get into the specifics, but for example, are you looking at Amazon being a tenant or any of these big warehouses?
No, we're
companies?
we're 10, not even 10% of what they would need to even look at us.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add to the board before moving on to the professionals? Next would be the engineer testifying.
No, we're growing corn in the fields now, and as soon as that gets chopped from Tor Anderson, he'll roll that over and start planting something else. And if we ever get the opportunity to construct on the land, then that so be it.
Okay. At this time, that concludes my questioning of the owner of Sparta Holdings LLC, and I'd ask Madam Chairwoman if there's any questions or if you want us to move on to our engineer.
So I will move on to our professionals. Do you have any questions of this witness?
Madam Chair, I do not at this time.
I do not.
I would just say that, at what point in the design process would you get like the interaction with the building and the rail siding? Would that come from the railroad or would that come from the future tenant? And would you leave that link not done until a future date till you get that nailed down?
Yeah, no, I've been up there to Cooperstown, New York quite a bit, talking with them, and, but not just this project, but our company does a lot of other work for them throughout the northern state of New Jersey. And I've sort of been asking them questions all along about how it would be laid out. Years ago, Bob Littell owned this property, and he had the property shaped. You might say, why is it shaped like that? Well, it was shaped like that to receive a railroad siding coming in. And as it turns out, now that I'm seeing the information about it, it's right where the rail went straight because they don't put sidings on a curve. So where the straight part of it ended is where this siding would occur and come onto the property. So I think there's been a whole lot more research done ahead of time, including different things with easements and things like that, so.
And the only other question I have, and you may or may not know it, is that other than the local jurisdiction, do you have to get any federal agency approvals for the rail siding to become active?
Not to my knowledge, but if we did, I mean, we have a letter that I've gotten from them
you know, and I've been after them now for a while, you know, what's the rough cost to do the construction of the railroad siding and all that. So we've gotten into all that. Doesn't seem to be a problem. I'm talking to the president, who's also the attorney for the NYS&W, and buck kind of stops with him, and he's given me some pretty good insight.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I will note part of the, seems I turned off. I will note that as part of the application is a June 5, 2025 letter from the New York Susquehanna and Western Railway Corporation indicating their consent to this. I guess I do have one other question, a little spin-off of what was asked. Are you aware of any easements between Sparta Holdings, your property, and Sparta Township, specifically with respect to how construction of a railroad siding might affect any easements between Sparta Holdings and Sparta Township?
Yes, we do have one easement that Bob Littell years ago granted to the Township of Sparta, and it's for a water pipe that's in a 20-foot easement that runs parallel to the rail. And what I was told, and I think the record shows, that they put a pump house in down behind the retention basin at the foot of Aaron Way, and at the time they had the guarantee that they were going to pump a certain amount of water. But at the time, the town couldn't pump that much water, so the only way they could approve it was to put in a blow-off where they did pump that amount of water, and the excess water got blown off and sent to White Lake. So that's, I think, is the story, but I don't totally quote me.
So the bottom line is there's a pipe that goes under the ground across your property that's owned by Sparta Township, right?
Yes.
And there's an easement that says that if the owner is going to construct a railroad siding over that pipe, that's either acceptable, but if it wasn't acceptable to the town, then Sparta Township, according to the easement, would be the party to have to relocate that pipe at the township's
Right.
expense, correct?
Correct.
And that would have to be done within 60 days of written notice, correct?
Correct.
But you don't have intention of giving written notice, is
No.
that correct?
No. In my experience, the railroad siding could be easily run over the top of it. And since it's not a supply line, it's a blow-off line, it's less critical, but I don't, we do this all the time, and sometimes you'll concrete encase them, and you'll go over them. If you're going to go over the top of them with 6 foot of dirt and make a railroad bed, you don't really have that load on the pipe that's going to be a problem.
Counsel, did you submit the easement?
Yeah, yes, that was submitted, and that's referenced in your engineer's
Beatrice
report.
just gave me a copy. Yeah, I'll take a look at it. And to be candid with you, it's unusual that the municipality pays for anything. So I'll leave that to,
That's page 82 in the deed.
yeah, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, it's an interesting oddball issue from a long time ago, it looks like.
Yeah.
Just one quick question from my end. The tax assessor requests that if there is an approval, that the lots could be merged into one. It makes it easier. Is that okay with the applicant?
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Okay, so we will bring the questions up to the dais.
Yeah, I have a question.
I'm sorry. Oh, we were going to start with Joan.
I think you referenced it, a blow-off pipe or something? Is that
It's
the term?
yeah.
Is
It blows off the excess water. I have nothing to do with it, but that's what I've been told, and it's an easement that Bob Littell had granted years ago to them. But him at the time, not knowing what he was going to do with the land either, which is amazing, he had the foresight to say what he said, just so that, in the future, that the town would cooperate with him in doing what he wanted to do, which I guess he always thought he was going to do a rail siding of some sort. And, and then we happened to see that. But like I said, I don't see any reason to have the town have to go through any,
Well, my question, it was going to be geared at, is this water coming from the retention basin that
No,
all
it
of
actually,
properties?
we could do a little
use?
more research on it, but I think that the water is, and I don't even know if it's still currently this way, but I think that water was told to me that it comes from the pump station, and it was excess. Now, whether it's still being blown off because it's excess, I don't know. Maybe our
I'm just
engine.
curious about the retention basin, because that's a question I have for later on with, I guess, the engineers.
Yeah,
and
well,
what
the,
was approved and,
yeah, no, the engine, as far as I know, the retention basin at the end of the road is fully complete, and we're the only lot that hasn't tied into it yet. The only thing I would say about that is, and it may come up later, is you got a cul-de-sac, around cul-de-sac, and on our side, they put the snow plowing holding area on our side. Then they put grass block pavers on the other side, like at 1 o'clock. Well, it makes more sense to put the snow on the right side and let it run down the grass block pavers and run into the pond. Why put it over on that side? So that's just a common sense thing, you know what I'm saying? So that's all other than that, it's just a detention basin that was sized to be suitable for the drainage, any potential drainage for that entire property there.
okay. My other question is, you said that you're not looking for tenants that are going to be 24/7.
I've done a lot of this work, and I don't know anybody. When it comes to quitting time, you don't see many people around, unless you might get a stray truck or somebody that came later, broke down somewhere, and they want to, they still got to get there to get unloaded and then leave. Something very seldom, though. You don't see many vehicles around these warehouses. We just finished up 270,000 square foot warehouses for a client, and there's never anybody there. It's just, it just seems to be the way it is,
So then you wouldn't mind if we took that piece out of it, where the lights are not on all night long with the wildlife? And
Yeah, I mean, listen,
On that?
it's a tough question for me to answer, but me personally, living in town, I think it's a great idea. But I have to, when I market it, if I'm going to jam somebody up to the extent they can't operate, but I don't want them operating in the middle of the night anyway, from 11 to say 5 in the morning, right? I mean, I would think that there wouldn't be much going on during that hour, right? And any lights that could be shut off are shut off, right? Except for ones that you would need for safety and whatnot, right?
All right, so you wouldn't mind a condition
Yeah.
of sorts?
Yeah, well, no, I wouldn't want the noise. I live not, going home. If they were going east, if I had my windows open, sometimes I can hear the highway.
Thank you.
Councilman Scott?
No questions at this time.
Mr. Day?
Yeah, just a quick one. So I believe this is just for preliminary site approval only, or is this preliminary and final?
This is technically a preliminary site application.
So would you expect that when you come back for final, that we'll have a better feel for any potential tenants?
Well, once there's an approval on the site plan, I do think that the tenant would have to come back. But if we can get a preliminary and final site plan approved, then that certainly would be the preference.
But the request for tonight is for preliminary.
Well, if we can get everything in, then we'll ask for a preliminary and final site plan approval. Thank you.
Bolger?
So you're going to be building the warehouse and the railroad siding?
Yes.
Okay. And will the materials that you will use to build the railroad siding, will those be new, or will those be repurposed from prior railroad siding?
Everything will be new for the building. The sidings, I believe that the standard for the railroad is that the primary rail in a lot of cases, gets reused for the sidings because it doesn't have to meet the specification for the speed that goes on the main rail. So in most cases, I think that's what they do. But it depends on availability and whatnot. If you say you got a fabulous price on a bunch of new rail, then you probably would go that route. But I think it's normal and customary to use rail that mics correctly, the width, the wear on the rail to be compatible with the wheels on the train, right? And then it, works like that. But yeah, no, they do. They think I think the federal government actually has final say over what ends up getting finally constructed. It has to be, I would think. They have a federal rail safety guy. He comes around all the time. It's easier for him to park and take a look at some of the rail cars all the time. So I tell him he can come and park on our property. So he doesn't have to, he's afraid of the bears too. He doesn't want to get eaten by a bear. There's a lot of bear over there. So, but yeah, that's it.
Vice Chair Otto?
So I guess Ron kind of already asked this. If it's just preliminary, is the expectation that there would be a subsequent general transportation logistics plan for the rail adjacent uses that would be planned for this based on the height carve out? And then I had a question on the height carve out, but I can save that for later.
Yeah, I think those questions would be better answered by the professionals. When it gets to the details.
questions.
No questions.
Okay. I have no questions for this witness.
So real quick, I did have the opportunity to look at the easement. Thank you. It is duly noted. It is filed at the county. It goes back to 2005. The particular language, and I think it was drafted in fairness to both parties. It says the owner of the land, which is now the applicant because the easement runs with the land, has the right to use the surface of the aforesaid premise. And then it does say the except as may otherwise appear herein or be inconsistent with the rights herein established, and shall not erect or cause to be erected, installed, or placed upon the premises, upon described or part thereof, the erection, installed, or placement of any building or structure over or interfering with the construction, maintenance, and operation of the water distribution line, which makes total sense. So my understanding and reading of this is that the parties agreed to the water line. The applicant property owner will not construct anything on top of that that would interfere with the maintenance or operation of that. And I don't believe, Council, you're putting a building over the water line. It's just the rail line?
Just the rail line, and our understanding of the construction standards are that that is acceptable. It's been done before. It can be done in this case. Our understanding is the pipe does not have to be moved. If it becomes a construction issue, it can be addressed with the construction official at that time, I would imagine.
I mean, we can leave that with the board engineer when we get to that, but from my perspective, it is a duly filed easement, and that's the relevant portion that I just read. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions of this witness, so I think we can move forward.
Okay, at this time, I would respectfully ask that our engineer, Owen Dykstra from Dykstra Associates, address the board. There's no batteries in this one.
Well,
So is there a charger or something you want me to put it on? Just because this one's pretty low too.
I can sit there. This one's on, right?
So this one is the red light of death, but it's working now.
Mr. Dykstra, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and spell your last name and professional address.
Owen Dykstra, Dykstra, 11 Lawrence Road, Newton, New Jersey.
And you hold your professional engineering license
I do.
in good standing?
Yes.
Are you testifying, counsel, on anything else besides civil engineering, professional engineering?
No.
I think Mr. Dykstra has been accepted as an expert in Sparta in the past.
yes.
I have no objection. For the professional engineer.
I do.
Good.
Second.
Okay, and counsel, did the board accept him as an expert? I didn't hear it.
Yes.
So thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dykstra, our licensed professional engineer. And Mr. Dykstra, if you can just begin by telling us where we're located and what we're looking at.
Sure. First, I'd like to mark my exhibit here. It's a colorized presentation of the site plan.
Good, A1 good, or you want to make
A1's fine with me.
A1? And if you can
I'll take
initial it and today's date, please.
It's dated today, so it was just prepared today. The project is known as Sparta Holdings LLC. It's tax lot 6 and 17, block 16001. It's located in an existing industrial park. It's located along Erin Way, which is located on the bottom of this map. That's this street here. Across from that intersection is Park Lake Road that loops around, and that's kind of the end of that industrial park. To the north is the White Lake area. This is municipal property. To the east is the NYS&W Railroad that we were talking about earlier. And then across the railroad is industrial facilities as well. To the south is the existing infiltration basin that was constructed for the Erin Way subdivision. The site is 7.66 acres, and it's in the economic development zone. The property is adjacent to the NYS&W Railroad, as I already said. There's an existing water line that you were speaking about earlier. On this map, it shows along the property line boundary this way. Just to clarify Tom's conversation, it is a blow-off for the water system, the municipal water system. When they have to lose water out of the system, they have too much in it, they discharge it to White Lake. And as Tom mentioned, the property is uniquely shaped. It has this tail that heads up to the north, and that runs adjacent to the rail to allow enough room for a railroad siding to come off that area. Also, the property is located in a wellhead protection area. As a result, the ordinance contains very specific requirements with regard to hazardous materials and will abide by those requirements. The proposed building is a 76,500 square foot rail-dependent warehouse, as discussed earlier. The facility will have an administration office of approximately 2,000 square feet. It's located in the southwesterly corner of the building. The building has been designed to meet the height requirements. I know in the review letters, there were some questions on the height requirements. The height requirement is 48 feet, but there's an exception in the ordinance that allows for 3 feet for parapets, and we're within that for the parapet. There will be a freestanding sign located at the entrance to the facility. It is per ordinance as far as sizing. There's also a building mounted sign. All the signs on site are per ordinance. The building has 9 loading dock doors, which are included in the 12 loading spaces throughout the facility. 2 are located on the southerly side of the building, and 7 are located on the northerly side of the building. There's a rail adjacent loading area. The rail spur comes from the north, parallel to the rail, and comes into the site. It runs parallel to a loading area that's adjacent to and approximately 4 feet above the rail, so you can get access with a forklift directly onto the rail cars. The rail on site can hold 5 rail cars total. There's a parallel additional rail siding that's proposed that would allow for additional storage of rail cars while waiting. And I know the question was 24/7, 365. And a lot of the 24/7 comes to do with the way the rail delivers the boxcars. They like to come in the middle of the night and drop them. So there has to be someone there for that. That doesn't mean necessarily they're emptying them. It's just because rail runs across a lot of highways and things at grade, and it's ideal to run at night. So that's why the 24/7, 360. We don't know when they're coming exactly. There might be one person working on site just to accept that. So that will be determined obviously by the tenant that eventually comes into the site. So there's no outdoor storage proposed, and that's a requirement obviously. We did show the HVAC units for the office area. They are located adjacent to the office, ground mounted, and they were screened with landscaping. the heat in this building will be inside the building. If a tenant requires air conditioning, they will have roof-mounted HVAC equipment, and that would be screened by the parapet. There's no generator proposed at this time. If the tenant needs one or requires one, they'll have to come to this board and request that at the time. We just don't know who the tenant is yet, and we don't want to say where it's going to be. Depends where their power comes in, what their power load is, what the size, so we don't have that information at this time. The site has been designed in accordance with ED zoning requirements. All of the building setback requirements for this building have been met. There's no setback variances from sidelines, front yards, etc. There are 10 tractor trailer parking spaces located on the northeasterly corner of the property. That's per ordinance, the requirement. There will be no overnight sleeping quarters in those trailers. Signage will also be required, so there's no idling on site for DEP requirements. The circulation is provided around the facility. We have an entrance across from Park Lake Road. It's a two-way entrance. Vehicles can traverse through the property. They can enter the main parking area if they're going to the office, or they can drive through, and you can come all the way around. And it loops all the way around back to the site. We provided turning templates for the vehicles that will be utilizing the site to demonstrate the ability for the vehicles to maneuver throughout the site. The parking lot itself has 138 parking stalls in accordance with the ordinance requirements based on the square footage requirement of the industrial use. The number is still significantly overparked, both in our opinion, as well as the ITE trip generation model. For a building warehouse this size, they anticipate a maximum parking requirement of 28 stalls. So we're at 138. So the Environmental Commission had requested that we consider banking parking stalls, and we'd be happy to do that if the board wanted to do that as well. We definitely like to bank the 46 that are located along the northerly side of the property, and that obviously would help with the impervious coverage as well. That would leave, if we just bank those, that would leave us with 92 spaces in this location, which is approximately 3 times what the parking generation from the International Traffic Institute contemplates as a maximum need. So we think it would still be overparked, but comfortably.
Excuse me, Ron.
Yes.
What did you say after the Environmental Commission? I couldn't hear that. That the Environmental
The
Commission,
Environmental Commission asked us to bank parking because we were overparked by warehouse standards, not by ordinance standards. So we would be happy to do that. There's no need to build parking just to sit there empty. So we would.
So just for the board, banking is you'll keep it green and open, and then if ever it became necessary, it could be reestablished.
Correct.
okay, thank you.
No problem.
And on your letter of today's date to the board from Dykstra Associates, I believe on the third page, you made reference to the banking also.
I did.
Thank you.
The facility will operate 24/7, which is what I had written in that letter. And that's, at this point in time, we don't know who the end tenant is and what their needs are. But I do know typically you'll get overnight delivery of rail cars, as I mentioned. So that's why we had that. We utilize a 4,000 Kelvin. I know the Environmental Commission requested a lower level of Kelvin. Basically, the Kelvin is the light scale. So the lower the number, the more yellow the light. The higher the number, the more white the light. 4,000 is kind of in the middle of the road, but it provides for a safe environment for physically working. As you get into the more yellow lights, it's more difficult to see. So that's why we're recommending the 4,000 Kelvin. The facility will meet applicable noise standards for an industrial site as required by NJDEP. Our calculation of the impervious coverage is 49.8%, where 55% is allowed. And in our calculation, we took credit for the porous pavement as not being impervious. The way the ordinance reads, if the surface is less porous than the existing condition, then it's impervious. In this case, porous pavement significantly more pervious than the cornfield that's out there. So it would not be considered impervious, in my opinion. I know Dave had some questions on that, and that's why there's a question mark in his report with regard to that, so we can discuss that. With regard to stormwater, this site is a little interesting in that when Aaron Way subdivision was constructed, the stormwater for all of the industrial buildings, my understanding is assuming a 50% coverage, was to be met by this basin. We've routed the bulk of the water to that basin from this site, and we've also constructed an additional storm basin in the rear, both our infiltration basins, to accommodate the stormwater that we physically couldn't get to that side of the site, just because of the slope of the land. So we have the stormwater pipe through the facility. It comes out into this basin. We're going to require an easement into the infiltration basin. If the easement weren't granted, we'd have to connect to the existing pipe that's in the street, which just would add additional piping and make it a little more difficult. There's a septic system proposed. That's at the westerly end of the property. We've done the soil tests. We have very good soils out here. It'll be regulated by the Sussex County Health Department, which is regulated by DEP. Make sure that it's in compliance with the requirements and properly treating the water prior to discharge. The building will be connected to the town water system. I had a number of conversations with, emails with Corey at the water department, and we came to terms with how this would go together, and we're good with his report, his latest version. So that's no problem. Same with the fire official. He had sent us a report. There was a number of items on that report. We were in agreement with most of them. The only comment that he had was for a 26-foot wide driveway. I went back to him. I showed him, I plotted his the turning templates for his fire trucks, showed that the 24 feet worked, and he was comfortable with that. And then he wrote a new email today, or a new memo today. With regard to landscaping, we provided the landscaping in accordance with the ordinance requirements. Mr. Simmons had a couple comments with regard to sizing of some of the trees, which we agreed to. The Environmental Commission asked that we remove the forsythia and replace it with a native species. We had chosen that plant just to provide a little color. It's not an invasive species, and we'd prefer some color in the landscape. Most of the native species are not the prettiest landscaping, so we'd ask to keep it, but if it's obviously not a deal breaker. That's kind of an overview of the project. As far as the bulk standards, we believe we've met them all, and we have no variances here. Items that were discussed, we can run through. But parking, if we reduce the parking, I don't believe it would require a variance, because the way the ordinance is written for industrial warehouse, it's 1 per employee or 1 per 500 square feet. There's no whichever is greater under that section of the code. So if we reduced it to 92, we'd agree to 92 maximum employees.
Mr. Dykstra, can you please just point out once again the number of dock doors on the proposed structure and where they're located on Exhibit A1?
There's 2 loading dock doors, which are specific language in the ordinance, on the southerly side of the building in the rear, and there's 7 on the northerly side.
And those, I see where you're pointing, but just to make it clear for the record, they're towards the rail side of the building, right?
Yeah, all the loading goes in this cube at the lower right corner of this building. The loading comes in and out of that area. The storage is primarily in the rest of the building.
Council, if we could, we made reference to Mr. Dykstra's responsive correspondence, which I compliment him on. It's a nice addition. I've marked that as A2. And I'd like to, if you could, council, just confirm that the owner is in agreement with the concessions and statements that are on Dykstra's September 17, 2025 correspondence.
Yes, so September 17th correspondence by Mr. Dykstra is A2, and the owner is in agreement with everything on this letter, yes.
And the owner is still in the audience today, correct?
He is, and if you'd like to hear that come from him, I'm more than happy. He's been sworn in, he can certainly indicate
Yeah,
for
if
the
you could,
record.
just quick for the record.
Mr. Schoonmaker, we've marked A2 for, as an exhibit, and A2 is the letter that Mr. Dykstra submitted to the board earlier today. And it's his comments that were reviewed with you earlier today. And the board would just like to hear that you are in agreement with everything that Mr. Dykstra wrote on his September 17th letter.
Yes, I went over it thoroughly and I didn't, nothing stuck out at me. I think it's okay.
And you're in agreement with the testimony he's just given also?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we will bring it to our engineer, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Most of the comments I have in my report of September 16, 2025 deal with engineering. So if it's all right, Madam Chair, I'll go through that now.
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Dykstra identified and responded to a lot of the comments, but I'll go through it just so it's in the record for myself as well. Again, on page 1, the applicant submitted a site plan to construct a 76,500 square feet warehouse with the railroad siding. Other improvements, as he pointed out, include the parking area, the truck loading areas, septic system, stormwater collection, landscaping, lighting, the railroad siding construction on adjacent block 50,000, tax lots 18 and 15, and utility connections. And based on a review of the information submitted in the August 4th, 2025 email from Mr. Dykstra in a previous on-site inspection, I have the following comments. Comments number 1A, B through J basically pertain to the documents that were submitted to the board in support of this application. And I had added, just for the record again, the water main easement from Littell Homestead Corporation to the Township of Sparta that's recorded in deed book 7234, pages 260, et cetera, that Mr. Porro had referenced before. I included the part about completeness when I had reviewed this application earlier, and I had 3 main items that the applicant and their attorney addressed. Number 12, on the checklist, names of adjoining property owners within 200 feet of the site as shown on the municipal tax records with their respective lot and block numbers. The concern I had at that time was the property owner list does not address block 50,000, tax lots 18 and 15. 18 and 15 are basically the railroad right-of-way that where the siding work would be constructed. And the response that we received from Mr. Gray was the applicant has agreed to notify the property owners within 200 feet of block 50,000, tax lots 18 and 15. And
we did request the list, and we did send a certified mail notice, and we did include it in our affidavit of service.
Okay, thank you. Then the next was number 25, any existing and proposed easements. The plans do not address proposed easements to allow water main connections and stormwater pipe / discharge onto block 16001, tax lot 15. And that lot 15, to put it in perspective, is actually the township's regional detention basin. The way the site plan utilities were developed, there's an existing water main that's actually on the township's property that they show coming across Aaron Way and tying into that particular main to gain access to the water flow. And there's also a storm drain that they have shown going into that basin onto the township's property. And I pointed that out because it appeared to me, subject to legal counsel correcting me, that basically they would need confirmation and approval from the township committee to do that work. And the response from Mr. Gray again was the applicant has agreed to address the need for water main and stormwater easements on the township's lot 15 as a condition of any approval the board may consider. So they've recognized that, and I understand they've agreed to it.
That is correct. We do agree to that being marked as a condition of the
And then finally, number 58, copy of any protective covenants or deed restrictions on all land. The subject property may be in the wellhead protection area and be subject to restrictions noted on the subdivision final plat and/or other recorded documents. The applicant at the first indicated that their title report did not show any wellhead protection area that covers the property, but I did go on the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, Bureau of GIS, and it shows a wellhead protection area for public community water supply wells in New Jersey in the Sparta Township area, because as you folks all know, this area just to the south is where the Germany Flats wells are for Sparta Township and its residents. And it shows the wellhead protection area extending up to White Lake, which is north of the subject property. Therefore, based on the New Jersey DEP mapping, the subject property is located in the wellhead protection area, and the limits should be reflected on the site plan, and the environmental report should address that protection area, just so it's clear. And the applicant did agree to address the wellhead protection area during the course of the hearings on this application, and Mr. Dykstra just mentioned that, in fact, one of the things they were, as I understand it, willing to do is make sure that there's no hazardous materials stored in the site or discharged on the site.
That's correct. We anticipate that there would certainly be a limitation,
Microphone,
hazardous
please,
material.
yeah, microphone, please.
I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
It's for the people at home.
Yes, okay. Yes, there would certainly be consent to a condition of no hazardous materials as required.
Okay. And based on the responses that we got in response to those comments, I recommended the application at that time be declared complete. Then moving on to zoning, we have a table on page 3 and over onto page 4 with regards to the bulk requirements, assuming lots 16 and 17 are already combined, which I understand is the applicant's intent on this application. Basically, I found that with one exception, all of the bulk requirements were met. The caveat to that is on impervious coverage. Because this is a rail-adjacent use, 55% maximum is allowed, as Mr. Dykstra pointed out. They had calculated 49.8%. I had put in there to be determined. And the reason I put that in there is I think our office and Mr. Dykstra's office, I think, have to have a meeting and a discussion on the stormwater plan and how the various pavement and pavers were treated as far as impervious goes, because that may end up resulting in fact, in a large impervious number, which may or may not need a variance. So I just would throw that out there to reserve that right, if you will, to do some additional analysis on that.
And gang, just real quick, that's one of the benefits of giving a preliminary site plan approval, that after these issues are addressed in a final plan, you could give a final site plan approval at that time. The purpose of a preliminary site plan approval is that if you have pause and the applicant is going to spend substantial dollars with the engineers and the like, if the project doesn't get approved, they don't have to go through the additional cost of the final site plan cost. So that's why you'll see preliminary approval versus final. Council is seeking both here tonight, but that's one of the benefits of giving preliminary. The applicant can move forward. They have certain vested rights. And then when you get the final plan, you'll see all these comments incorporated in the plan. Thank you.
No problem. The other item I had called out was on the building height. The rail dependent allows 2.5 stories or 48 feet maximum for rail adjacent uses. And I had two figures there for the height of the average grade to the top of the roof itself, 45.92 feet, which is what Mr. Dykstra's office had calculated, and that meets the requirement. But I also had above that a height to the top of the parapet of 49.42 feet, which is in excess of the 48 feet. I had looked in the ordinance to see if there was an exception for parapet, and where I was looking, I did not find that. But subsequent to this report, Mr. Dykstra did point out another section that allowed additional height for a parapet to be accepted from the calculation. So I would amend my report to say that a height variance is not required. based on the additional information provided. With regards to item B on page 4, with regards to the number of dock doors, for a building greater than 75,001 square feet, which this is, you're allowed dock doors, one per every 8,000 square feet of gross floor area. And taking the proposed sides of the building, divided it by 8,000, I came up with 9.56 dock doors, and I indicated that he was proposing 10 dock doors. Now, if Mr. Dykstra could be so kind as to go over to the drawing, A1, I know on the southerly side, he's proposing 2.
Yes.
And on the northerly side, he's got 7.
Correct.
And going over to the, call it the northwest side, there's 2 basically at-grade doors.
Yes, they don't meet the definition of dock.
Understood. They're at grade, and basically, so the board understands, and if I'm being redundant, bear with me. Basically, the dock door is elevated and with a roll-up door, and when the tractor trailer backs in, it's more or less the floor of the trailer is at the same grade as the warehouse building. So they just basically open the doors, open the trailer doors, and roll in with a plate to bring the materials in. With the at-grade, it's basically like the garage at your house. They might open it up, and the box truck or whatever truck it might be would back in, and they might bring a forklift to take it out of the box truck and take it someplace in the warehouse. So it's a different thing as far as the definition goes. Where we differed in our number, and I called this out, and I would leave it to the board if they want to decide differently on this. There's one area that I noticed it's boxed out, and if say a box truck was pulling parallel to the northerly side of the building and then backing up to this platform that, as I took it from the architectural plans, is built up, I took that as a dock door because it's basically an elevated area. That's where I got the additional dock door.
I agree, it's a dock, but it's not a dock door.
Well, for the board to discuss. So that's where I came up with that. And again, for the tractor trailer parking, if you had the 9.56 dock doors, the way I looked at it, that's where they came up with the 10 tractor trailer parking stalls. With regards to the site plan, I pointed out with regards to accessible spaces for handicap, that's the township construction official. I had brought up the fact when I looked at the plan and some of the aerial views with regards to the railroad siding. You'll notice Mr. Dykstra mentioned that there were a maximum of 5 railroad cars that were going to be put on the siding. I had looked at that when I looked at his drawing on one of the sheets that showed how the tractor trailers were going to make the clockwise circulation around the site. And the way he had it with the railroad cars at that time, there was a conflict. So I know the traffic engineer in another application had brought up conflicts between traffic and cars being parked in the railroad. So we wanted to make sure there was a limit so we didn't have an issue not only for circulation of tractor trailers around the site, but God forbid, emergency vehicles, fire trucks, that type of thing. They addressed the generator is not being proposed at this time. With regards to detailed plans of the siding, again, they'll have to work with the railroad company as far as developing those plans. Developed plans weren't provided as part of this application, and they confirmed that there's no outside storage. Okay. I recommended a deed be filed to merge the lots as the tax assessor had requested, and I understand they agree to that.
Yes.
And I mentioned that the proposed access drive coming off the cul-de-sac at the end of Aaron Way effectively eliminates the existing snow removal easement. This will have to be approved by the town council because it's a deed to Sparta Township and a new snow removal easement established for snow removal. Mr. Schoonmaker had mentioned perhaps into the detention basin or infiltration basin. That may be a viable option. That'll have to be worked out if the board approves the application. With regards to parking and circulation, basically the applicant met the requirements as far as space size, number of loading spaces, and aisle widths. The one area that Mr. Dykstra and I disagree on,
I did notice from the architectural plans that, call it the, I guess it would be the southwest corner of the building, where he mentioned there was, I think he used a figure of around 2,000 square feet. I scaled off roughly 2282. It was an office area. And what I've always seen us do with other facilities that are warehouses that have an office up front is apply the one space for every 200 square feet for office. It makes it's a limited area compared to the overall warehouse. But again, I pointed it out because it was a slightly different number. And if you use that number the way I calculated it, I came out with 160 spaces. Total they've got with the credit for the EV spaces, 153, so that results in a waiver. So that may be something that the board wants to discuss a little further. With regards to item number 6, storm drainage, there's a lot of information here as far as what's required as far as the storm drainage calculations and what's pervious and impervious. And I think it would suffice it to say at this point that, again, as I mentioned earlier, I think it'd be appropriate and productive for our office to have a meeting with Mr. Dykstra's office to discuss this, because in addition to making sure the requirements for stormwater are met, in addition to that, this may translate into some additional impervious coverage percentage, which may or may not translate into a potential variance. And I know one of the things that Mr. Dykstra mentioned, and from what I understand, the Environmental Commission mentioned, they may want to consider banking some parking. And I remember from other applications, that may be something the board and the applicant want to consider. The only thing is, my recollection from other applications is if the ultimate parking configuration was ever constructed and it still required a variance because of impervious coverage, even though you weren't constructing it and perhaps never would, in order to let that be possible in the future, you may have to grant a variance for it if you see fit. So I throw that out to everyone to keep in consideration as they're listening to the application. With regards to the lighting plan, again, Mr. Dykstra responded that the LED fixtures are going to have been modeled with the fixtures horizontal to minimize sky glow and not angled. And a couple fixtures we need additional details and shop drawings on, and he agreed to provide them. He addressed that under architectural plans, there's not going to be any emergency generator at this time, and the HVAC equipment basically will be roof mounted, and they'd have to show the board, or I'd recommend they show the board, if they're going to have that type of equipment, how high it would be in relationship to the parapet. So in fact, it was buffered and screened from the street down below. The landscaping, my understanding is they're in agreement to increasing the size and caliper of the various materials. With regards to the water system and the water main, basically, they have shown that tying into, as Mr. Dykstra indicated, the township's water system. I think it's something that should be checked as far as the easement goes and what the water system, or excuse me, the water department would prefer to do with that water main. There's probably about, I think I scaled roughly about 200 feet of the water main that's actually underneath the proposed railroad siding. And that may be an area where the water main may become necessary to make it cross the railroad perpendicularly and get out of the way of the rest of the siding. To be determined. I don't know if there were any test holes dug to determine the depth of the existing main. Okay. There may have to be some additional reconnaissance work on that just to see what is or isn't needed on that. My understanding, I agree with what Mr. Dykstra said before, was that main is basically discharging water towards White Lake. My understanding, I didn't work on this project, but my understanding is when the township went for their diversion permits from the DEP, there was some concern from the DEP about lowering the level of White Lake. And as a result of that, there was a requirement to put so much water back into White Lake. That's not a main that's necessarily providing public water to any particular customer other than the lake. So I just want to confirm that for everyone.
The septic system, as Mr. Dykstra indicated, has to be approved by the county health department. With regards to the signage, I looked at the one facade sign on the building, the proposed building, and the monument sign, and based on my reading of the ordinance, that meets all the requirements. Few construction details that were reiterated with regards to the water system by the water department, with regards to making sure the mains are type K copper, not HDPE tubing. The same thing with the flared end section, that would be concrete to withstand ultraviolet degradation and that type of thing. With regards to the environmental impact statement, again, we reiterated that we're in the wellhead protection area and taking care to make sure that there's no discharge of any hazardous materials that affects the wellheads that are the lifeblood of the town is very important. I did point out in the one document that it had a plate that showed a JCP&L easement. Perhaps Mr. Dykstra could comment on that.
Sure. The tax map apparently shows a JCP&L easement through two of the properties, this one and the adjoining subdivision to the south. The JCP&L easement actually ends at where the residential property is at North Village, and that adjoining subdivision stop. They never purchased the easement between the two, so it's a disconnected easement. JCP&L's never been. They started acquiring that whole easement, but they never got the whole thing. So on these two properties, they held out. And they did not get it.
As far as the electric, though, would it be through JCP&L?
Yes, I mean,
So at the end of the day, in order to get electric, if they required an easement, you negotiate it as appropriately.
no, the easement we're talking about is for a high tension power line that they were going to build.
Oh, okay,
So it
I
was like
got it.
200 foot wide. It
Something
was-
different.
Yeah, totally different.
But again, your electrical power is through JCP&L.
Correct.
And then finally, on page 5 of the EIS, under public benefits, there was a statement that said developing property which lacks environmentally sensitive lands. And I note that the subject property is in the wellhead protection area of the Germany Flats wells. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record, that was perfectly clear. With regards to the traffic impact statement, I'll defer to the traffic engineer on that. I just pointed out that they confirmed that they're not going to have any outside storage, and we had the discussion about the loading docks and the docks and what have you that we discussed earlier. They also provided a community impact statement and general transportation logistics plan. This indicated that the stormwater basins, if not having to provide additional basins if the impervious cover didn't exceed 60%. I have to check that. I'm not sure that is a correct figure.
I think that's inaccurate. I'm pretty sure it's 50%.
That's what I think too. That's why I mentioned that. In addition to that, this particular property is a little bit unique from the standpoint that, as Mr. Dykstra indicated earlier, all the lots along Aaron Way, basically, instead of having their own individual detention basins, with the caveat that some were added because they had additional impervious above 50%, all those basins, all those different lots discharge into this regional detention basin that the township has on its property. The caveat is to lot 16, because of the topography, all that lot and its contributing drainage area could not be brought into that basin. So as a result, and maybe Mr. Dykstra could point this out, please. At the northerly end, there's an additional basin proposed to handle that smaller area that can't be captured in the regional basin.
That's correct. This area, great slopes away this way, so it couldn't go back to this basin. So we built another basin up in this area.
And then I did note that in section 5 of that impact statement, the hours of operation, as we discussed before, for loading, unloading, and the rail car, loading and unloading are shown as 24 hours a day. But I did note a specific number of weekly rail deliveries has not been provided. Now, I understand in this case that they don't know who the tenant's going to be yet, but just so the board knows, that's kind of an open issue, an open item as far as the use of that siding and how it's going to be handled. And under miscellaneous, finally, I did note most of the agencies that I felt the applicant, if the board were to grant approval, would have to also satisfy. County Planning Board for the site plan, the Water Department, the County Health Department for the septic, the Fire Prevention Bureau. Will the building be sprinklered? Yes. Okay, so that'll be sprinklered. Soil Conservation District, the Township Construction Official, obviously for the building and ADA requirements. Sparta Township for an access permit because of that snow removal easement and what we discussed at the end of the cul-de-sac before. And also for drainage, water main, snow removal, et cetera, and the railroad with regards to the siding. And as usual, what we recommend is if the application is approved and constructed, finally an as-built be prepared by Mr. Dykstra's office as their land surveyor upon completion of the project. And that's my report highlighted, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Counsel, is it acceptable to the applicant that the report given by Mr. Simmons is acceptable to the applicant?
Yes, it is acceptable to the applicant.
And the conditions and clarifications that he put on the record, are those also acceptable?
Yes, sir. All acceptable.
Ms. Knight? You know what, that actually is probably not a bad idea. So, Mr. Intindola, if you wouldn't mind.
Just specific to the site engineering testimony, if the spaces were to be banked, would they be banked as a gravel bed, or would you use like, would they be grassed and then the curb would be pulled forward, or would it, or just you would grade it out and then you would have a curb limit where they would be at the end of the spaces, and then you would go to like a vegetative cover? I just didn't know what how you wanted to bank it, unless the Environmental Commission has a method that they like.
We would typically bank it as lawn.
Straight up lawn?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so your curb would pull forward?
Correct.
And those catch basins that were in that parking area would pull forward, or they may not be needed?
Correct.
Okay, that's so, just a clarification on that. And generally for the curbs that would be exposed to truck traffic, do you go with a heavier curb, like a county standard, or are you gonna go with a typical, like a development standard?
We use a jumbo block curb
That's
for
a-
around the perimeter of the, we use it on all our projects because the residential one does not hold up.
Does not hold up, right? And when you're talking about jumbo Belgian block?
Yes.
In the design? Okay. And then that is bedded in live concrete and set and then mortared in?
Correct.
And so, okay, so those are I think they're 12-inch block min
I don't have.
for the jumbos? I think that's what they are. All right, okay, so those were the questions I had. And then in your circulation areas, do you go with a heavier section of asphalt where you have a pervious component to your, so the areas that are truck trafficked, is that a little bit more substantial cross-section in your paving?
We'll do a California bearing test and see what they.
And then see what it comes up on the axle, on the proposed axle loading. Okay, that's all I had, board.
Mr. Tintola, is there any conditions in your September 12th, 2025 review letter that need to be incorporated as a condition of approval if the board was to approve?
Not specific to the testimony of the site engineer.
So noted. And counsel for the applicant, you have a copy of Neglia's September 12th, 2025 traffic study by Mr. Tintola?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight?
So the two engineers covered a lot of what was in my letter, but just for what Mr. Simmons was saying regarding his parking calculation and using the two different uses, I know he has said historically it's been done that way. Also within the ordinance, it does say any building containing more than one use shall meet the combined parking space requirements for all uses in the building. So that's most likely where that resulted from. Although they are deficient on parking, the addition of the EV credit does bring it into conformance. However, as Mr. Simmons said, that is up to the board to discuss. In addition to that, I just wanted to go over a couple of items regarding tractor trailer parking that are within the ordinance, just to have this on the record. In section 18-4.29I5, tractor trailer parking stalls shall be provided that are not directly adjacent to the building. The applicant has provided parking on the northern side, separated from the building. One tractor trailer parking stall per dock door shall be provided. We are saying there are 9 loading dock doors, correct? And there are 10 tractor trailer parking spaces in that northern section. Next, the tractor trailer parking stalls shall be provided at a minimum dimension of 50 feet in length, 10 feet in width. I believe the dimensions that I can see on here, sorry, it's kind of, I have it on my computer, so it's a little slow. I believe it is 50 by 55, 50 by, I don't have the width on there. Do you have the width, Mr. Dykstra?
Mr. Dutcher, can you just put for the record what you're looking at? And
I'm looking at the site. Page layout plan, sheet 3 of 8.
from your office, and what's the date of that?
May 2nd, 2025.
Thank you.
10 feet wide.
By 50 feet. So they meet that requirement as well. Mr. Dykstra said on the record that the tractor stalls shall not be utilized as overnight quarters. And then finally, just also, if the board was to look favorably on this, we would ask for the trucks shall be subject to the NJDEP vehicle idling standard requirements, and adequate signage shall be installed to enforce idling standards. And then also just a note on mine as well regarding the height. I had the same height, but I also do note that the height of the building is 245.92 feet, but with that 3-foot exception for a parapet, they will have a deviation of 1 foot, 0.42, so it meets that 3-foot exception as well.
So, Mr. Gray, same thing now for the board planner. You have a copy of her report of September 16, 2025.
I do, sir.
And based upon her testimony she just gave and those clarifications or conditions, is that acceptable to your?
It is acceptable, sir.
Oh, I do have one more thing. Sorry. Sorry. I had one more note. And then also I would think, I would ask if the board was to look favorably on this, a condition of a 6-month review of the lighting and on the property to determine if the lighting is within the standards and still acceptable.
Is that okay, applicant?
We would not object to that.
I have nothing for you.
So I am going to pose a question to the board before we bring questions to the board. Given the hour, would you like to take a short recess before we continue? Or would we like to start with questions from the board? Just 2 questions? Okay, so then we will start with Mr. Zimmerman.
Yeah, I do have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd mentioned that the site has storage for 5 rail cars. Did you mention there's also a waiting area? Or is that actually on the main rail?
On site, we could have 5 cars.
That 5 total, but then I believe you had mentioned there's,
There's a parallel rail proposed right here, adjacent,
okay.
and that could have where cars got.
Yeah, I don't know much about rail, so I don't know how that fully operates. So, but if you have more, do you have any idea how many rail cars are potentially on that adjacent rail?
I mean, it's a fairly long area because it
Yeah.
comes off the rail.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're just curious. And then I believe you also mentioned that the 24 hours is often for the rail because railroads operate 24 hours.
Correct.
Do we know if there's a lot of rail traffic operating 24 hours a day on that line?
Most of the rail on this line operates overnight.
Yeah, all right. I just know like on Demarest Road, sometimes there's rail traffic, but I'm not there at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's why they're there.
So there's really not going to be there's not really going to be a change to people, let's say, on Houses Corner. There's already operational rail 24 hours a day.
Yeah, they're not adding trains for this facility.
Okay.
If a train's coming.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I just have one question, and it's really to get a little bit more clarity between the dock doors. So I know that they are supposed to have 9, which they have. Those are the ones that are above or the level of the trucks. And that, what's the other 2 that are at grade level? Are they at grade level, or I was confused with what you guys were both saying,
So-
Mr. Simmons and Mr. Dykstra.
Want me to explain it? Okay. The dock doors by ordinance is where a truck can back into. It walks into the building and the doors open inside. So there's 9 of those. There's a loading dock, which is the 10th one that Mr. Simmons was referring to, where it's open air and you back in and you can unload onto the platform. And then there's at grade where you can drive a forklift out and in, for those type of uses. So it's where you can drive a truck into the building if you need to.
Like a regular garage. Right, so then what is this discrepancy? I guess I'm still unclear, because on that 10th bay,
Right. When I looked at the plans, in particular, the architectural plans, I looked at the northerly elevation, if you will, and I saw the 7 dock doors that were on that plan, no question there. And I saw the 2 at-grade doors, no question there. And there were a certain number of, and we haven't talked about them, and it's not part of it really, man doors to go into the building. But then I saw the loading dock, if you will. And I said, well, it shows a loading dock, and on the side of the northerly side of the loading dock, it also showed a railing. So I said, if a truck backed up to that, they're not going to be able to unload because there's a railing there. And then I studied the circulation plan, and what it appeared to me, because of the widened curb in that particular area, if I was driving a box truck into the site, just for example, I would go past that elevated loading dock and I'd back into it. And on the side of it, it was opened up where you could open the doors in the back of the box truck and go right on to the same elevation as that loading dock. It was kind of a gray area, so that's why I called it out. That's the only discrepancy that I have.
okay.
If I could add something
Yeah.
to what Mr. Simmons, I think accurately said, was that Sparta Township specifically defines what a dock door is in its ordinance. Additionally, it says in its ordinance, if a building has not more than one and a partial second side of the building, with dock doors on not more than one and a partial second side of the building, which is what our proposed building has, then that building shall be considered a warehouse, not a distribution center. So we want to be very careful about complying with Sparta Township's definitions and ordinance when it comes to dock doors, and that's why this application specifically, in our opinion, complies with the definition in the ordinance to say that this shall be considered a warehouse and not a distribution center.
Right there.
Owen, you said in your testimony, you're pretty confident that the number of parking spaces that are going to be needed is less than what's required on the ordinance. I tend to agree with you, and I think that idea of banking and cutting down on the impervious coverage, I think is a positive thing and a good idea. So that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
So I guess I want to touch on it's vacant now. It's a public benefit. The public benefit, do you want to speak to what that's going to be? It's going to be just like ratables?
Yes, just to clarify a little bit about what the applicant testified to, it's not vacant now, it's a cornfield now.
Yeah, well,
And it is farmland assessed property at this time. With the construction of this building, it will be a tax ratable. It will have employees presumably working there, and those employees we presumably would be local. So there would be jobs and there would be a ratable. And more importantly, it's the last lots on Aaron Way that doesn't have the structure or warehouse on it. And what is appropriate to build on this lot? Well, this is a very unique lot, as the applicant testified. You can see this odd shape with kind of like, it looks like a boot. And it's a boot because it goes by the rail, and it makes sense to have something that is rail dependent. You know, the applicant testified that from Sparta, lives in Sparta 35 years, and like anybody else, wants to minimize dealing with truck traffic, and this is a rail-dependent building, and this is something that we think makes a lot of sense for Sparta Township. And unlike the other buildings on Aaron Way, this building is designed to utilize the rail in a meaningful way.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna continue on that. So that's the plan. It sounds like Mr. Simmons is looking to meet with the engineer on the question of impervious, pervious cover, right? So presumably there's gonna be discussion about an ongoing maintenance program for the pervious surface.
That would be part of it. The main part is how we're looking at the pervious versus impervious with the proposed permeable pavers and what percentage of the area those permeable pavers the applicant's engineer contributed and attributed to the project calculation versus what we think it is.
And I had looked at, sorry if I have this wrong, is it 50% or 55% on the carve out for the ED zone?
That's allowed?
Yeah.
55.
Is it? Okay. And is the California bearing test that I heard, is that just kind of the tractor trailers sitting on the asphalt and not destroying it? Was that something else or?
Well, normally it's called the CBR ratio.
Okay.
And normally when we've got a parking lot that's going to be used for, say, just normal passenger cars, if you will, there's a standard pavement thickness that's held up in this part of the town for most parts. But if you've got some heavier pavement where you're going to have tractor trailers going over it, loaded, et cetera, they look at the soils, they look at the frequency and the weights of the trucks that are going to go over that area, and they come up with some calculated figures. And in order to get a pavement box that'll withstand that type of loading, you have different components, be it the stabilized, bituminous stabilized base, the top asphalt surface course, or dense graded aggregate underneath. Each of those layers has a particular strength value per inch. And you'll go through the calculations and you'll figure out how many inches of each you need in order to get a pavement box that's strong enough to withstand the calculations with the CBR and the other data.
So, but did I hear it correctly that part of that calculation is dependent on expected traffic use on that surface? So presumably you're gonna, when you have these discussions, you're gonna make an assumption, a reasonable assumption based on the expected use of this. And then there's gonna be a subsequent tenant agreement. Would we get another look at this, I guess?
I don't want to speak to Mr. Dykstra, but I would think, given the fact that if the board approves this application and they're going to construct the building and the site improvements, which are primarily parking lot, you basically get one shot at doing the parking lot. And you may have to err on the conservative side, and instead of a layer being 3 inches thick, make it 4 inches thick or whatever, and I'm just making that number up, because you're gonna pave it and it's gonna be there, and you have to get that all set up because you're gonna set your curb up for that, you're gonna set your drainage up, your inlet grates, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there'll have to be some engineering judgment if they anticipate that they're gonna need a thicker pavement box in certain areas. And I've seen this, for example, on a Lowe's store or a Home Depot store that comes in. You've got your parking field that's normally just pickup trucks, mason body trucks, passenger cars for the customers, that type of thing. But then you've got the delivery aisles that go to the loading docks and back for all the heavy deliveries. Those are the type of aisles that normally get the heavier pavement thickness.
Okay, so the pervious areas, I just want to make sure, I guess, that when you're having that discussion, if they're subject truck traffic, are they or not? The pervious
The
pavers.
way, and Mr. Dykstra can correct me if I'm wrong, the way they've got their parking lot set up, the main access aisles are asphalt. The proposed porous pavers are basically in the parking field for the passenger cars. And I've seen it at different facilities where that's where they normally put that. And that way it addresses some of the concerns you just mentioned to make sure that the tractor trailers aren't going over the porous pavers and compacting or breaking them.
Yeah, because that's not going to hold up. But also because we're in the Germany Flats wellhead protection area, I just want to make sure we're paying particular attention to this because there is a carve out, which I appreciate, to allow for that 55%. But then because we all agree that we don't want any contaminants flowing easily through the surface to subsurface into that shallow aquifer, we just want to, it's kind of the opposite of what we would deal with in other areas. We're extremely sensitive to surface contamination. And so I just want you guys, I'm sure Mr. Dykstra, you've considered that, Mr. Simmons, you've considered that, but this is just, it just got me thinking because you have the benefit and you're right. I see that rail dependency. So you can make use of that additional impervious. And I think banking the sites, the spots makes a lot of sense. But I just want to make sure that we've thought of everything we possibly can as far as the repercussions of you have something. So it sounds like it's just passenger cars. It's not idling trucks, dripping, de minimis, but nonetheless hazardous materials. Yeah, kudos on the height on the parapet because I was like, there's no way, but I did find that little subsection that you found on that. I mean, it's a negligible amount, but it's good, and I guess it can be added on top of the exception for the ED zone rail dependency. So that's it for me. Thank you.
And Robin Board, that's one of the, and I'm circling back, a preliminary approval would allow you, if you were so inclined, before they come back for a final approval, to get those issues of the engineer and planner addressed in that plan. So that's another mechanism or basis for preliminary approval, if you're so inclined. Thank you.
So the two doors that are at grade on the north side of the building, those are really primarily for forklifts and clamp trucks to be able to get in and out of the building?
I mean, there's no loading areas here per se. It's just a way to get into the building. Right, it's like a garage door. The building's very long.
Uh-huh.
Just gives you space. I don't anticipate any loading happening in these doors. It's more of an access point into the building.
Okay. And will the building include cold storage?
Storage requires a lot of sewer. So I don't see that happening.
Okay.
Just a couple of quick questions. Some of the standards relate to the setbacks to residential areas. I couldn't tell exactly that green space, or is that a potential residential or whatever, but have you looked at the setbacks in regard to that?
Yeah, there's no residential area within 500 feet. I think
Okay.
300 feet is
Yep.
setback on this.
Okay, great.
Nothing there.
Thanks. Second question I have is, and I think I see it now looking at the color picture, but if you could just confirm it, there should be two means of ingress and egress. Can you just show us where they are?
Sure, we have an ingress and egress off of the cul-de-sac, and it loops around and it comes back out to the intersection.
Great, thanks. And then the last question I have is in regard to the fire marshal's memo, where he talks about adding fire hydrants and that type of stuff. Can you comment on his memo?
Sure. He had a number of items. He wanted a fire hydrant within 100 foot of the building where they connect, so they can make an easy connection. That's not a problem. I don't have it in front of me, but I can grab it. You want me to run through it? approved lockbox must be installed, and that's a requirement, so we agreed with that. The fire department connection must be installed within 100 feet of an approved hydrant, that's what I just mentioned. So we'd agree to add a hydrant if that's necessary. An approved fire hydrant shall be installed along portions of the building where approved fire apparatus access to the fire hydrant exceeds 600 feet. That as well. And due to the building height exceeding 30 feet, and in addition, no fire hydrant along the fire apparatus access road. Access roads should have an unobstructed width of not less than 26 feet, and that was the item I discussed and went over with him, and we reduced back to the 24 feet. And a vertical clearance of 13 feet 6. We don't have any vertical clearance issues because there's nowhere that it's going under anything. Then a fire lane and no parking fire lane markings, and we'd agree to that.
Okay, great. So you agree to all the terms of the memo?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
And again, just for the record, that's the Sparta Township Fire Prevention Memorandum dated September 16th, 2025, correct?
Yeah, and then he had a clarification on September 17th.
And that's as to the 24 feet versus 26.
That's right.
Right, Mr. Tyson? Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Question, where will the water in heavy rains, like we've been seeing of late, where's that water going to run off to?
Primarily, the water runs to the existing infiltration basin. The back area here runs to the storm basin.
Okay, so that water just runs directly off the pavement into the, there's no filtration system to that, right?
The infiltration basin is the filtration system. Prior to discharge to the groundwater.
Say that again, an 80%?
80% reduction to total suspended solids. But by design, the stormwater basins are designed to do that. So that's your filtration system.
My question is if we're gonna have this semi-impervious pavement, when it rains, the water that goes will just go directly underneath into the ground, correct?
The water that lands on the porous pavement will go directly into the ground.
Correct. All right, so we are already at 11 parts per trillion PFAS in this area, in this Germany Flats aquifer. And the federal regulation is 4 parts per trillion. And the town council and the town is struggling with the challenge of raising tens of millions of dollars to put in filtration systems to make the water here in Spartan safe again. Why would we make it more challenging to the Germany Flats aquifer by allowing this?
Speak to what the requirements are for development from our perspective.
Sure.
The stormwater rules that are in your ordinance, and we have to comply with them. And that's what DEP puts out, and that's what you guys put in your ordinances. And as a development site, that's what you're required to meet. As far as the PFAS in the waters, I can't speak to that. I can tell you that our project will meet the Sparta Township stormwater ordinance.
So the impervious coverage alternative, or let's call it the pavement alternative, what would I call it?
Porous pavement.
Porous pavement, there you go. So the porous pavement is going to allow truck tire, car tire particles to go directly into the ground, directly into the aquifer.
A porous paver system has multiple levels, and the upper levels filter the water that's going through it. It's like a tighter grains, and then as it goes to the bottom, then there's a bed of stone to hold the water while it drains into the soil. So, I mean, it's also an 80% total suspended solids solution. so it meets the same requirement of an infiltration basin, so it's no different as far as, I mean, it's part of land development. You're gonna have cars, you're gonna have trucks and.
Right, I'm just looking at the taxpayer. The taxpayer is going to get a rateable, but then again, the taxpayer is going to be struggling with spending tens of millions of dollars to filtrate the water, right? So where's the balance?
Yeah, I understand your question.
Just a thought, just a thought. Kind of piggybacking off Vice Chairman Otto's question. Will there be any goods stored in the trucks overnight?
I can't answer that. Whoever the tenant is will be able to tell you.
Will there be any goods stored in the rail cars overnight?
Typically, a rail car will show up, it'll be parked there, and they'll unload it the next day is what I see in these facilities. They come in overnight, they're dropped. So I would say likely.
Okay. And this is, to your counsel, a question. The extra dock, let's call it the extra, maybe not really a dock door on the northeastern side. That really puts us over the definition of warehouse into logistics facility, correct?
No, sir. That is not a door that meets Sparta Township's definition of a dock door, so it does not put this building into a logistics center. That being the case, legally, in my legal opinion, and I'll leave it to Mr. Poro, if it was a designed dock door that met Sparta Township's definition, it would still not make this proposed structure anything but a warehouse. Your ordinance simply says if the dock doors are as they are proposed here, then the building must be considered a warehouse. It does not say that if there are additional dock doors, it can't be considered a warehouse. We wanted to meet your definition in the most conservative way possible, and that is what we did and why the building is designed this way.
Thank you.
I'm done. I have some other questions, but I just want to follow up on a couple of yours. After a heavy rain, and you're saying everything will go down into that other basin, how does it get there? Do you have underground piping to direct it there? Okay. And then with regard to these two questionable dock doors, box trucks can unload there, correct? Maybe not a semi, but the box trucks can go in and out and do something there.
Anybody could unload at a dock.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
but it's not a dock door by your definition,
okay, but it is an unloading space.
essentially.
Okay. Let's talk dock doors then. Let's just pick one dock door. A truck coming in, how long will it take to load the truck? Average. If our hour, we'll say an hour. So you're operating all these hours a day, and let's say you scale back to even 15 hours a day. That could be 15 trucks that can come in and out of that one dock door. Right? Comes in, loads. Right. Now, I know it's not perfect, but, okay, so theoretically it's that, then you multiply times the number of doors you have. To me, that signifies quite a bit of traffic coming in and out, because otherwise you would only really need 2 or 3 dock doors, and they would just be more efficient. But those dock doors cost you a lot of money, so I'm guessing that they're going to be used. But you can't tell us because you don't know who the tenant is, but if you really want to be efficient, you're going to make use of those dock doors.
Yeah, efficiencies in a lot of different ways. Having multiple dock doors allows you to unload one at a certain time versus another. You know, there's a lot of different efficiencies, and the scale of the building, you know, unless the stuff's going in and out instantly, which isn't what we're allowing, you're not doing what you're talking about. I think our traffic consultant can give you some information on the number of trips that are anticipated based on the scale of this.
Yeah, well, that's what I was looking at, and I know you referenced it, which is why I was bringing it up. Otherwise, I would have waited. But in the morning, it says 2 trucks. In the afternoon, it says 2 trucks. It's just not efficient for the number of dock doors. So I'm wondering why you're incorporating so many dock doors if we're looking at this warehouse definition with just these few trucks that are going to come and go. So that's question one. And then piggybacking on that, there are different types of warehouses here. So I want to know which one you really think you're going to be based on the trucks coming in and out. The Neglia.
Yeah, that's your traffic consultant.
Yeah.
Our traffic consultant.
Okay, then maybe this question goes to Brian.
Restate the question, please.
Sorry?
I lost track of the question.
Okay. I was saying on your study here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of warehousing. I can knock 2 off here pretty easily, which leaves maybe a choice of these 3 types, and it's still considered warehousing. But the one that was picked shows that there will be 2 trucks in the morning peak hour, 2 trucks in the evening peak hour, and, maybe a few in between. So why 7 or 9 dock doors? I mean, these are very few trucks here, and I'm just trying to say how is that efficient? If you're going to have 1 truck comes in, gets loaded, goes out, you're going to have another truck come in. You may have 10, 15 a day just for that 1 dock door. So the numbers here, to me, aren't correlating when you're looking at the volume. So how do we know which warehouse use to apply? I'm trying to get to intensity because I'm not so concerned about the labels. I don't care about the labels. I'm trying to figure out intensity and how much traffic is really going to be there, not just a general thing that comes from a trip generation report.
So then, right now, because their traffic engineer didn't testify, we're just in a world of definitions, right?
Yeah,
So you have a very tight definition, I believe, in Sparta, right? There's a ratio of dock doors to, it's got to tie to the railroad, very, very narrow. And if you read the IT definition, it is similar. So when the applicant's traffic engineer used warehouse, the ITE use warehouse, it matches pretty well in the world of warehouse definitions and types. And because the limiting value is really the dock doors, right? There's not a lot of dock doors for the 76,000 square foot they're proposing. And it's not a pass-through dock, like north side dock, south side dock, and pass-through. It's not that. It's receiving, and from what I can see in your ordinance, it matches that it's rail dependent or rail, rail associated. And it seems that most of the receiving end in this instance will be by freight, rail freight. So I think that, and their traffic engineer can testify to it and flesh it out. But I think in terms of, we're right now in that level of definitions, that the definitions of your warehouse and the definitions of the Institute of Transportation Engineers for warehouse use, they're fairly match. It's like a hold and store. That's the theme for both. And I think that that's what the applicant has in their traffic report. And it also matches your definition. I hope I answered your question. But that's where I
you
look at it.
clarified it. I still
Right.
have questions about how many are going in and out, but I'll wait for their traffic engineer. I'm going to just move on to parking for a minute. How many EV parking, I know you have 20, but how many are required for this kind of a warehouse?
I think it's just a function of the number of parking. I think it's based on that.
Are 20 required or is it less?
I'd have to check that.
Okay. And Lindsay, this is for you. In your report, it had So we have 160 parking spaces, 154 proposed with the 6 credits on one page. And this is just me not understanding it. Then the next page it has make-ready space, parking credits 16. So can you just tell me what the difference is between the make-ready versus this other one that was incorporated on the on
So
page
there's,
4?
you have a number of parking spaces, EV credits that you're maximum required, and then you have a number of credits you're allowed to take from those. So once you meet the requirements of EV parking spaces, you then have only, the state statute only allows you to take a certain percentage of the credit. So say you have X percent, say it's 20% is required by the state, but then the state only allows you to use a maximum of 10% of
Okay.
those towards your credit. So that's why there's a difference between the two numbers.
All right, thank you. And then with parking, I know, the banking is great, but we don't know what tenant is going to be there. So we have to approve based on the 160, correct? And then we can go back and say, okay, let's bank some. But you have to lay out what is required, and I guess we would have to give a variance for that.
I think your ordinance under warehouse, under industrial warehouse is an or not a maximum. It's 1 per employee or 1 per 500 square feet.
Okay, so, but it comes to 160?
If you do the 1 per 500 plus the 1 per 200 for the office.
Yeah, I mean, because there are going to be people in that office, they're going to have cars, it's going to be more than a different use than a warehouse. But if you did that, I would think that we'd have to grant a waiver or a variance for that, because you don't know who the tenant is, and we can then, and I get nervous about doing that because it sounds great, we're going to bank all this, but you can't say we're really going to bank it because you don't know who's in there. So somebody comes in and they say, well, now we need all this, and there goes all of our good intentions with the banking of it.
If it's banked and you need it, you build it.
Yeah, but then it's already pre-approved. So I just don't want to get caught with everybody thinking, oh, we're banking this, it's great, it's going to be green, when somebody comes in a year down the road and they might want it all and it's already approved. So I just want that to be stated. And if that's the case and we don't want to grant a variance, can you make the building a little smaller to comply so a variance isn't necessary?
Just limit the number of employees.
Not if it's based on square footage.
One space per employee or.
Yeah, all right, okay, okay. Let's see what else I had here. The lighting you mentioned, that the 4,000 Kelvin would be better for safety reasons in the back, I guess if they're working at night. Could you do maybe a mix of maybe some areas with the 3,000 and some with the 4,000?
Looks really awkward.
It does? Okay. I'm just asking. I was writing things down. And this is really not for you, but I do want to bring it up. I went by there Saturday morning just to take a look, and there were 3 tractor trailers parked in that cul-de-sac where I couldn't even turn around. And it looked like they belonged to the other building, and they had tractor trailers jammed in there, so there was no room for even these 3 to park in there. So I don't know where they're going to go, but I just want to make sure that when you start, is going to be left open and how it gets enforced, and that there's going to be no parking in a cul-de-sac.
Full road, so holiday could ticket them if they're parked in the street overnight. You'd have to make an ordinance that parking in cul-de-sac, I believe, but I would think that would make sense.
I would note that those tractor trailers are not the applicants.
No, I know. I
Tractor
know. That's why I said
trailers
it's
and-
not for you, but they are there. I don't know where they're going to go, but just want to make it like
the applicant
during a
would not-
weekend or something
Yeah,
that
they would-
nobody's going to be
Applicant
parking
would
there.
not want tractor trailers parked in front of his property, and hopefully Sparta Township has some type of ordinance that can be enforced not to have tractor trailers parked in that cul-de-sac.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
I have just one more question, if I may. The EV charging stations, whatever the number is, are those actual charging stations or are they EV ready?
You have to do EV ready, and then a certain percentage of them have to be installed.
Okay.
I have something, one thing. So this is all speculative. I think you did a good job at kind of working perfectly, tailoring within the constraints of how it's written. But as you know, there's that general transportation logistics plan that would be required. So just piggybacking on what Joan said, I think we're all trying to get at intensity and get away from, not get away from, but kind of look at that as the overriding controlling issue versus labels, right? So I don't really even know how we could do this, but could there be some, presumably you'd have to give variance for the parking, even if you bank it. Could we do a conditional thing that goes with the tenant where, because we would need to see this general transportation logistics plan within the ED zone. So I just don't know, like maybe a question for our lawyer is how would that even go together? Would
Yeah,
we,
as we discussed, Rob, the best mechanism, in my opinion, is if you're so inclined to approve, to give the preliminary approval, and then maybe even before they come back for their final approval, they would have a tenant that can answer those questions. But as of right now, they have sworn under oath as to compliance with the warehouse ordinance. I think the issue of that northeast loading area, the platform, that, I'd recommend to the applicant to get rid of it or do something, just get rid of the issue. But that is an issue that seems to be lingering in my mind. But you could just do a preliminary approval.
Okay, well, not to beat a dead horse, but that dock platform, what's its benefit? What's its benefit? I mean, you have 9 other dock doors. What is the benefit to that platform specifically?
Operating this building, it's a place to drop equipment and things that you're not locking into a door. It's just where you can unload something. I don't think it's going to be used as a loading, unloading. It's just.
So would the benefit of that outweigh the benefit of one of your dock doors?
So in essence, have on that one side where you have 7, is that what you have?
Right, he has 7 on
One
one
in the
side.
north and 2 in the
So
south.
would it be feasible then to potentially put 6 on that one side and keep the platform as opposed to having 9.5?
Oh, I didn't think the testimony was 9.5.
I'm just saying that the point is that the assertion of some of the members of the board is that that platform, is representative of another raised loading space, and there's some ambiguity here. So the question then becomes, if that's a valuable spot, is it possible, or is there a thought element that you could potentially lose one of the dock doors on the side where there's 7? Is that feasible?
Feasible. It's just a question of what makes sense. I think it would probably make more sense just to put a railing on it and not use it. That way. So I don't think you want to give up a dock door because that's kind of the.
No, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking the opportunity cost ultimately overall.
so condition it so that they can't load.
You should put a railing on it. It can't be used.
That's fine. Just for convenience.
Okay, so if,
It's going to the dock doors. It's not going on the platform.
okay. Yeah, just this way, there's clarity there, right? So then it becomes not a space where things can potentially be unloaded. There, it's very clear that that's not used for that purpose. The dock doors are used for that purpose. So you now just pull it out of the rotation for the argument.
I would just add to that, that the definition in Sparta Township's ordinances doesn't, in its definition, talk about what the door is used for. It just says, here's what a dock door is, here's what it is not. And if this proposed building has the doors situated the way our proposal does, then it is considered a warehouse. Under your ordinances, again, even if there were more proposed dock doors, it could still be considered a warehouse. It doesn't automatically strike it as a
Right.
defined warehouse.
My point is not about the warehouse, not warehouse issue, right? I'll get to that with my professionals. My assertion is based on the concerns of the board, what I've heard here, what I've heard people say. And we keep coming back to this platform. So if there's an opportunity here for us to do something that might remedy a situation and promote approval, then I think that that's probably the best practice. But that's just my thought. Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Chairman-
you'll get the rest of the board's vote.
And
when
on
it
that
happens.
thought, so I think the sentiment is 6 of the truck loading versus 7, and keep the platform, or 7 and then put a railing.
I think they've agreed to the railing on the
Is that
platform.
council?
Yes, well, certainly we would agree to a railing as a condition of approval.
Okay.
Just for clarity, to make sure that that ramp area is not, a loading, unloading zone.
Okay, that takes that issue off the table. So, question for my professionals, or our professionals. In the testimony that you've heard so far, because we do know that jurisdiction was an issue, is there anything in what's been spoken so far that's given you pause to make you think, for whatever reason, that this might not be a warehouse? Do you truly believe that it falls squarely within the definition of the warehouse based on the testimony? Are we in good standing here?
I think for me right now, yes, the other piece of the definition, which Joan was speaking about a little bit, talks about the volume and it says low volume. So I think waiting for the traffic engineer's testimony would help to determine that. Obviously, we have our own traffic engineer, but I'd like to hear from the applicants as well. The other item as well is there are some like design guidelines, which I would like to hear testimony from the architect as well regarding materials, articulations, things like that.
Yeah, the reason for the question is because we're approaching 9:30, and I just want to make sure that we're in good standing to continue this hearing, because it seems that you have at least 2 more witnesses. And I would like to open it to the public for their questions regarding this hearing at this time.
Can I just ask
So,
one more before you
Oh,
do that?
sure.
Quickly, the forklifts, are they going to be electric? Well, if they are, then you would need to be inside, have the charging stations. Is there anybody else who would know that?
It's going to be a function.
All right, I'm done.
okay, so at this time, I'd like to open it to the public for questions related to this hearing, for testimony that you've heard thus far.
Hi, Jenny Derricks, Tappan to Sparta. Do I need to be sworn in?
Jenny, are you making a statement, or are you going to cross-examine?
I'm going to be asking questions.
Okay. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Name and business address, please.
Jennifer Derricks, Tappan to Sparta, Sparta, New Jersey. I just had a couple of questions. They may be possibly for our professionals. I'm not certain. Maybe I don't have access to the most current ordinances. I only have access to what's on our township website. But under this is 18.4.29, obviously, for the ED zone. Where am I? F. I just had it. Here it is. F8B, subsection B, where it talks about impervious coverage. It shows 50%, and this is the exception, the rail adjacent use. Exceptions for rail adjacent use that meet the definition for rail adjacent use shall be permitted a total impervious coverage of up to 50% of the total area, not 55. So
That's what I saw too. That's why I asked.
so I'm saying maybe I don't have access to the most current standard, but that's what I see here.
Questions for the testimony of the engineer?
Well, I guess,
I understand the question. My recollection is I looked at a copy of the actual ordinance that was passed. I thought I saw 55, but I will double check that.
thank you. You are going to have, is it my understanding, Mr. Dykstra or the attorney, that there's going to be a traffic professional as well? Okay, so I'll hold those questions. And did I understand you to say that you're going to combine the lots, you're going to do a deed? Okay, thank you. And then, again, this question on the design standards, F1B2, where is it? I only see that under design standards, the 48 feet, where is this parapet permission?
(18-4.2).
4.2, so it's not in the ED zone.
It's a height exception in the general.
But doesn't the ED zone have its own specific requirements with this rail-dependent use? Aren't you relying on the rail-dependent use exceptions?
Yes, we
To-
rely on the height and then exception for all height throughout the township that this refers to.
Okay.
If I could even, is the purpose of the parapet is more, is it aesthetic to make it more, you know, David, or, I always thought a parapet was a positive thing, but is it, what is? how would you
In this
describe it?
particular case, as Mr. Dykstra mentioned, if they end up with some HVAC equipment on the roof, then it'll help with some shielding to camouflage that, if you will, to the extent possible. And the other thing is around the perimeter of the building for safety purposes, so somebody doesn't walk off the edge of the building, if you will. Plus, it just delineates the edge of the building.
So aesthetically, the roof of the building pitches towards the street, so that creates a flat line around the front of the building, so it doesn't look like a pitched roof in the street.
Dave, is the parapet also allowing the applicant to increase the clear height of the building?
The roof itself does not get higher. It's basically a wall, if you will, around the perimeter
Sure.
of the roof.
Okay.
It's just decorative.
Jenny, if it's 18-4.2 general provisions L number 3. Nothing in this chapter shall prevent the erection above the height limitation of a parapet, wall, or cornice extending above such height limit not more than 3 feet, or to the construction of farm buildings of variable heights. So,
Thanks, Rob. I
yep.
appreciate that. And then just one last final, one final thing, at the very end of the ED zone, all the way down at K, number 6, it does have restriction of hours of operation for the rail, for the train. Rail adjacent use shall make arrangements with the rail to ship and receive shipments to and from the northern section of the rail that connects to Warwick, during the nighttime hours of 10 p.m. through 5 a.m. if shipments crossing Route 15, grade, blah, blah, blah. So it is in the ordinance when the train can operate in and out of the building. Thank you.
Mike Devine, Oak Parkway, I will be asking questions.
Thomas, sort of tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Just for the record, name and address for the, name and, you don't have to give your home address, but just.
Hey, Michael Devine, Sparta.
Thank you.
Some of these I'm sure you can't answer because you don't have a tenant yet, but maybe from your experience, or you can maybe speculate a little bit. or maybe it's more for the circulation discussion. The impression I'm getting is that the deliveries will be 100% by rail and the outgoing is 100% truck. Is that accurate? What percent will be rail? Will you have some delivery by trucks? But it's conceivable that it could be a mix.
I would anticipate a mix.
Okay. When you bring the goods into the warehouse, will they be repalletized? What will be the expected residence time of the goods that are brought in? Do we have any limits on that? I'm kind of getting at the idea of the level of activity. I mean, to me, we're talking about a warehouse being defined by the number of doors, which frankly doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think the level of activity has to do with what you're actually doing with the goods when they get in there. To me, a classical warehouse, you take goods and they sit there for extended periods of time. You might remix them and then move them out. Do you have any idea what the actual level of activity will be like that? Will there be repalletization, or you don't know that either? You won't, it's not prohibited, it could happen. Would you characterize this as wholesale or retail once the goods leave the warehouse? Are they going to be essentially wholesale to some other location? Are they going to be sent to a retail outlet? You probably can't answer this either, but if you leave the warehouse, will you be heading towards, will you expect them to go to Route 15 and use that at all? Or they turn right and go to 94?
They would go to Route 15.
They would go to Route 15. Just more of a general question. This sounds to me like you've identified a lot of companies that are interested in doing this. So I'm visualizing the rails coming in and dropping stuff and being sent somewhere else. Is this replacing another location that does that now, or is this a new operation entirely?
Depends who the tenant is.
So is there anything analogous to your operation within some reasonable distance of this location? Okay.
The mic, yeah, if you wouldn't mind passing the. Oh, was it dead?
That one might be.
Okay. We're, in my opinion, we're going to try to pick the best tenant that fits with this building and with everything else that everybody said and with the ordinance requirements, you know, the whole, and everything like that. So, and that includes the hours of operation. We're not, I don't think we're looking to have people there in the middle of the night. That's not, I don't think we need that. But the difficulty for me is, unless I get the approval, I have no right going out and marketing the space. So, you know, if I don't have a reason to put the building up in a railroad, then I have nothing to offer anybody. And we have no opportunity at a rateable and all that good stuff. I think the building itself is did you have an elevation drawing? A picture of the building? We don't, do we? It's a pretty good-looking building, and the landscaping will be exceptional. It's in a remote location, and I think we need ratables in town. I'm the last guy on that block to develop, and everything is there to accommodate our stuff. Mathematically, it all works out for the drainage and the water and the electric and the gas. That loading dock, you can put a rail around it, I don't care. It's just that if you got two trucks coming in those two back doors, and say they got stuff on the floor from the forklift, and you got one more pallet on the back end of the truck, maybe the forklift could take it and just stick it on the side there for a second while the guys get the other stuff in, and then you take that and you bring it in, and, you know, that's really all that is, like a temporary staging area. But yeah, we can put a rail around it so it doesn't, approach the definition of another loading dock.
Thank you, I think that answers
All
it.
right.
So I think a quick question with regard to intensity, right, is it's long-term storage. So can we, for the record, clearly define what long-term storage is? Anyone?
In my experience, we characterize the warehouse as the resident time, average resident time of items. And that would get you to what's long-term storage, what's closer to a logistics transfer point. It doesn't sound like we define that.
Right, and that's why I'm asking one of the professionals to potentially opine on that particular subject. Yeah, please, please.
Brian, you win.
Brian, you win.
Probably the worst thing I did this week. Well, it's only Wednesday. So in the context of warehouse operations that I know as a traffic engineer, right, you have like the pass-through bays, right? Like Roadway Express or FedEx will do a bay as one side to the other side, and they basically unload a tractor trailer, the forklift goes across like an X pattern to the next tractor trailer, and that tractor trailer's out. That's what this is not, right? This is what we're not seeing. So for long-term storage, based on the traffic engineering perspective, it would probably be storage probably like 72 to like maybe 96 hours, right? That would probably be long-term storage. Because then when it's received from the train, it comes off the siding, that's an overnight operation, usually, right? Even in the ED district, it prefers 10 p.m. to being in the morning, not to interfere with local vehicle traffic. So that's like day one. You're already almost burnt like 20 hours in that. In a normal transfer warehouse or logistics warehouse, that would be the duration of the transfer, just at point one. You know, I'm just trying to think the logic through it. So to me, it all points to the way this is set up, that it would meet what I would anticipate be the definition of long-term storage compared to other warehouse uses, because that's the only context we have for this within your ordinance, which, you know, I think that you have to be relative to that. So I think that, you know, anything that would be, I would say 48 hours plus. Like non-perishable, like, you know, when you're moving, like my experience is when you're moving bulk goods on a train line, either it's in North Jersey, right? It's lumber, it's bulk goods like gravel, it's pelletized plastic for injection molding. That's what I find in the other applications that I have reviewed. There might be a specialty equipment manufacturer that is bringing up heavier, like, they don't even make them anymore, printing presses or whatever, you know, like a need for that. So it might be a specialty equipment manufacturer that needs to aggregate loads here in Sparta. So I would say that if you're grasping for a definition, I think that 24 hours, which is what this is, would probably meet that definition of the undefined definition of the duration of about 24 hours. Anything less than that, I think is short term. I hope I help, but just give a relative scale. And I'll get rid of the microphone.
I'd just like to follow up on something you just said. So rail car technology is improving, correct? So the number of options of things that can be shipped by rail safely is increasing.
Well, like, I think that it depends on how you say safely. I gotta characterize that, because like per load traveled, rail has less by definition.
Rail has less what?
Accident rate. It's safer
Right.
From a traffic perspective.
Right. And it's less susceptible to inclement weather.
All the above, right?
All of the
All
above.
the advantage of having rail siding for your heavy palletized loads, because they're not using containerized units. And no one testifies to this, but they're not using like the rail to truck to trailer method. these are box cars that you would unload basically, as far as I can tell, by the way they're setting it up with a forklift, and it's palletized. I mean, that's usually how you do it. Door open, take it out with a forklift and bring it into the warehouse. So, that's,
I'm going to bring it back to Mr. Devine in case you have anything else that you.
One last thing.
Sure.
Mr. Schoonmaker, don't misunderstand. I think we're all for good ratables, and it sounds to me like your team has done a really rigorous job of trying to meet all the requirements. So I hope this goes through, and I wish you well. I think maybe the board might want to consider that we might have to expand or intensify, whatever the right word is, our definition of a warehouse. We always seem to come down to what the traffic implications are and what the intensity is. And I don't know if we have enough specificity in the ordinance to really get at that. Such as the kind of thing he's been saying is, how long are the goods there typically? What happens? How many trucks per day? What routes are they going to take? Maybe we might want to consider quantifying some of that to help us get through these intensity and definition of warehouse issues. Just a suggestion.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else from the public with regard to this hearing?
Raise your right hand. Simon, swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So,
I do.
name and just town.
Chris Bernitos in Sparta. This is all very interesting. I don't know much about rail, but I do live on Trafalgar, so I've got the railroad right behind me. I think it's the same track, right? So I have a two-part kind of a question. One of them I think is a town council thing, but a lot of times there are trains that are stopped on there for a long period of time, like 3, 4, 5 days, venting something, making a lot of noise. I think that's a town council question, so I guess I'll ask that another time. Did I understand this, that like parking of these trains would be on the White Lake side, like going that way? I'm just thinking about like living in that area, in the community in that area. We've already got a bunch of trains that park there, make a ton of noise, and it's really disruptive. And this all sounds really well thought out. I'm curious about if there would be an impact in that regard of trains being parked continually down, because I don't even know how many you're talking, like 10, 15, 20, you know what I mean? I don't know anything about rail.
Owen, can you please use the microphone? Thanks.
It didn't before. It seems to now.
Yeah, so the rail comes from north of White Lake.
Okay.
And the siding comes off of it at the tip of this property, and it comes in here. I mean, the rail cars that'll be stored on site will be located right in this area. There'll be a gap in them between where the driveway goes through. In addition, there's an additional rail here in case there's additional.
Did they basically pull off and park there and wait for that? So another question about railroad stuff, because now it does make sense that it's overnight kind of operation. And I know I live by a railroad track, so I expect that. Did you say there's not going to be an increase in traffic, though, of trains because of this?
This type of use and so few rail cars, it'll be attached to a train that's coming through already.
Okay. And one more last thing. Anybody that has experience with this kind of thing, are there, and this might be silly, do the railroad people have like rules about overnight driving by residential areas? Like, do they have to go slower or try to make it? I'm not usually disturbed by it, but I'm just curious, like, do they have rules that regulate how much noise would be impacted if there is an increase in traffic?
I don't.
Okay. Just curious about that, but thank you.
Okay, any other member from the public?
Council, maybe you could, since it's a 9:45, I'm not so sure we'll even get to your traffic expert. If your traffic expert could look into, are there rules or regulations on the trains, as the gentleman? And also, if you could, is the municipality preempted in any way on the rail usage? If you can kind of find a case or some regulation on that.
Yes, I can do a quick legal memorandum on how the rail preempts township rules, yes.
And just for the public, the reason I say that is if you deal with waterways, a lot of times the federal government has jurisdiction, or the DP has jurisdiction on our waterways. Lakes being different, but rivers, ebb and flow, those that, transportation. The commerce clause, going from one location to another. Again, local government can't put a toll on a river or can't put something on that. We can put a bridge, but on the water itself. So here, the question I'm asking council, and I'm sure it's out there, is how does local government able to regulate rail? And council said he would look at that, so appreciate it.
Okay, given the hour, I'm
They
assuming
go, I
that we're.
just have a few follow-up questions based on the comments from the audience. Where is the junction where these 5 cars would be broken off? Because they are long trains. So where would they stop to break off the 5 cars? His house?
In this area?
By his house? Okay.
White Lake's here and Victoria's over on the side.
Okay, so there's like a junction up there?
No, that's where the
Okay. All right. Is everything, I think the question came up, but I don't know the answer. Is 100%, everything coming in 100% by rail?
Yeah.
So you're going to have trucks coming in and out as well? Okay. Any rail to truck? Yeah. Well, with a forklift, taking it off a train and putting it onto a truck, is that possible? Could potentially. Okay. And then last question for Dave, and based on Jenny's question with the impervious coverage of 50%. A little while ago, we heard from Behringer, which is on, I think it's 10 Aaron Way. And there was, I think you were actually at that meeting, maybe? No? The person who designed all of Aaron Way was there, and he was stating something about impervious was normally 40-something%, but because of the retention basin that they had there, they increased all the lots in that area to 50%. So I'm wondering if that's where this 50% is coming from, and if maybe you can just research that part of it before next time, so we have an answer?
I believe you're referring to Robert Campbell Associates. Alan Campbell was the engineer on that
Okay.
project. And Alan Campbell was the engineer who originally designed Aaron Way in this whole subdivision, including the regional detention basin that the township now has on its property. And I will double check, there's some information on the filed maps. I'll double check that, and I'll also double check what's in the ordinance, so we
Yeah,
get the
because I
figures
remember
straight.
him specifically saying we go up to 50%.
It was something
And if that
more
is
than 40%,
Something that
yes.
is attributed in a deed or something, or however it works to those lots.
Yes, and some of the lots I mentioned, they even went over the 50%. So they, if you'll recall, I think Behringer's, and I double-checked this, but I'm pretty sure they had a smaller infiltration basin or detention basin in their front yard to augment the storm drainage as well. So they went above and beyond.
All right, thank you.
Can I put in a request for the applicant? I had brought this up about 18.4.29 ED Zone K, that there's a general transportation logistics plans. We all understand that there's no tenant in mind at this moment, but kind of Jenny brought that back up again, that number 4 of that requires that there be, so I would ask, could we get written approval from the main railroad if obtained at time of application, all, number 6, all rail adjacent uses shall make arrangements with the railroad to ship and receive all shipments to and from the northern section of rail that connects to Warwick, New York, or during nighttime hours of 10 p.m. through 5 a.m. if the shipment will be crossing Route 15 in Sparta at the grade crossing. Proof of the arrangement with the railroad shall be provided to the board and township. So could you just review that and see if it's something you could provide?
Yeah, I cannot speak, nor can the applicant speak to what the railroad will or will not do.
Well, it is in the requirements for the ED zone, so I would just review it. It's 18-4.29, K number 6. Thank
And we
you.
could, as a board, put that as a condition, again, whether or not it's preempted or that's another day, but we have that ordinance, and if the board's so inclined, we put that as a condition.
Okay, so, given the
Excuse me,
hour.
Chairwoman Luciano, could I
Sure.
ask another question? please?
Absolutely.
I had a question. It's about intensity of use. There's been some judicial scrutiny of Sparta's intensity of use on certain properties in the town. And I'm just concerned because the National Association of Industrial and Office Parks says that the average turnover rate for a warehouse is between 5 and 10 times per year. And what we've heard tonight is that these products that are coming in and going out may be there just between 24 and 40 hours. So let's just give you the benefit of the doubt and say they're going to be there 48 hours. That means the turnover rate would be 180 times per year, which would be 18 times the industry standard. And I just don't understand exactly. That just seems like an incredible amount of intensity and incredible amounts of traffic in and out on a road, which Route 15 has been deemed at its maximum right now. And I know we can't consider Route 15 because it's not directly adjacent to this, but obviously Route 15 and Route 94, your only access is in and out of this property, I believe. So it just seems like if this is going to be at anywhere between 18 and 36 times the average industry warehouse use, maybe this isn't a warehouse. Maybe it's a logistics facility. And I'm not really sure. I understand. Maybe that we could do, our traffic person could give us some investigation on that. I mean,
So-
maybe I just need to understand
We'll
that,
ask
how
the
it impacts.
question yet again.
Hmm?
I said, we'll ask the question yet again about jurisdiction as to whether or not any of our professionals feel that this is not,
Traffic
Yeah, person,
they said.
they do have a traffic person, but we're,
Not today, so we won't
Correct.
decide this today.
well, right, but I mean with the testimony that we have so far, just to make sure that we can continue.
Can't answer.
Right, because that's the thing. If there's something that we've heard so far that gives us pause, then there's no need for us to go any further, right? Then we make the determination. But if our professionals are okay with the fact that they haven't heard anything so far that gives them pause, then we continue to our next meeting. So just to get secondary confirmation, I know I asked the question before, but given the additional questions, additional testimony, are we still on point?
I have no change.
Just to reiterate, the definition for warehouse is a building where raw materials or finished goods are stored, which we still don't know because they do not know the tenant. Presuming that it is, where the primary purpose of this facility is extended storage of product, which I'd assume is something that's non-perishable, and typically have low volume of tractor trailer and non-trailer vehicle traffic. I believe we're going to hear more testimony from a traffic engineer. So we will get a determination on that when we hear their testimony. A building where storage of products is the primary use that contains dock doors on not more than one and a partial second side of the building shall be considered a warehouse. I believe that piece we have kind of spoken about quite a bit with Mr. Dykstra, and I think that that piece would conform considering they're also going to put around that one questionable dock door. So I think that it would still conform to that piece. And therefore, it is not a distribution center. So based on the information that we've been given thus far and the definition that we have within the ordinance, I would say we're still within the jurisdiction of the planning board.
Okay.
And I would agree also in that the representation of the applicant has said that they will live within the four corners of the ordinance of a warehouse. So I am likewise, based on the testimony at this point, satisfied.
Could we just put in a request from the board if if it quacks like a warehouse or doesn't quack like a warehouse at some point, that any of the professionals raise their hands and just tell us, and then we don't have to keep checking in?
Yes, and I think, yeah, and I will say that my antennas are up and they have been since the beginning. As Mr. Dykstra knows, is we've gone back and forth quite a bit, so.
Okay.
I have one question. Mr. Scott quoted something about turnover. Is that specifically for railroad siding warehouses that you quoted? Or warehouses in general? Thank you.
I also want to point out, I think that turnover is the full 76,000 square feet of warehousing. A full turnover, not
Right,
a few
that's
trucks.
correct, sir.
Is that what you were getting at?
Right, and that's what was told
said
to us.
24 to 48
Now
hours.
it's 24 and 48 hours is complete turnover.
Okay. Let's see.
That wasn't what they testified to. It was our profession.
To be fair, that was just speculative.
Right, so let me clarify what I said. Because the whole warehouse is not turning over in 48 hours. It's for the goods received, and it's usually first in, first out, or first in, last out. I don't know the logistics of that. So of course, you, based on what I said before, you would think it's turning over in 48 hours, but it was not my intention to say that. So I knew I would regret offering that testimony, but what I'm saying is that if a train is unloaded, it takes a minimum of 48 hours to get that processed to transship, compared to a cross-dock warehouse where it is open the door, and go, just to give it a relative context. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, so I believe now we're ready to continue in terms of moving the remaining portion of this hearing to our next available meeting. Mr. Poro?
Yes, Mr. Gray, it's almost 10 o'clock. That'll be October 1st. I don't, Dory, are we okay time-wise?
We're okay.
Okay, so there will not be any need for additional notice, is that correct, Board? What was the date, I'm sorry? October 1st.
October 1st.
All right, now, as far as Mr. Dykstra has already testified, if he has another board he has to be before, it would be unfair to mandate his attendance if he has to be someplace else. He has testified and the public has reviewed, and they have their traffic and they have their architect and the attorney, so,
So, Mr. Poro, I'd like to speak to you offline because it is very possible our applicant and our engineer are not available on October 1. And I don't want to inconvenience the board. I know there's another application coming in, but
so you wanna
I
just
know that
carry it
the
to the
applicant is
following
very,
meeting?
yeah,
Wanna
the
carry it to
applicant's
the
very
15th?
invested on being involved. And I think it makes sense for the engineer to be present as well to answer questions of the board. So maybe it makes the most sense to put us on your next meeting after October 1.
You might want to rethink that because I'm not going to be here on October 1st either.
All right, so logistics-wise, if it was to go to the 15th, in all candor, I believe the chairperson has a conflict on the 15th, and I will be at the Bar Association Conference in Sorrento, Italy. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, now. We'll just,
Just zoom in, Ken.
So I will have coverage, but I will not be here on the
Okay,
15th.
so-
So if we went to November, I think that's a full complement.
that's probably a better idea. If you're willing to hold out for that long.
Yeah, I think that would be most appropriate,
Okay.
just to make sure we get everybody in.
So the first meeting in November.
That will be November 5th.
Thanks, Dory.
Dave and I some time to chat too.
Yes, excellent point, thank you.
Great.
Oh,
So November 5th, no additional notice needed.
correct.
Okay.
We should take a vote on that, just,
All right, so do we need a motion and a second for that, or? is
please.
that-
I'll make
I'll
the
make a mo-
motion.
I'll second.
What is the motion?
The motion is to carry the matter without new notice to November 5th.
Birgit was the first, I'm sorry, who was the second?
Birgit was first, Rob Otto was second.
Birgit Bogler,
Yes.
Jeanette Burke.
Yes.
Ron Day.
Yes.
Joan Furman.
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad.
Yes.
Councilman Mark Scott.
Yes.
Brian Zimmerman.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Robert Otto.
Yes.
And Chairwoman Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you very much. Have a nice evening.
We'll see you in November.
I'm just not trying to usurp Mr. Porro, but to go to November, do they need any kind of a time extension to that date?
Council, is that okay?
sorry,
If
what
there's
was-
any time extension, that you're not looking for an automatic approval. You're consenting to carry it to November 5th?
Yes, we are consenting. Thank you
Good.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Covering bases.
Okay. We can. So. So we only have one of these two resolutions, right?
Hi, good, how are you?
Oh, right, we have to do the agreement, right?
Yeah, I saw it somewhere too. Great. You can start.
Well,
All right, gang, so we can keep moving on. If the public could respectfully leave so we can finish our business.
Anybody who doesn't want to
Who
stay
doesn't wanna
for the
stay,
open
thank
to the
you.
public?
Thank you. Yes.
Actually, while we're doing this, providing anybody's willing to stay or looking to stay? Nope, you're gone? Okay. So it looks like there won't be anyone here for anything that is not on the agenda?
thank you.
I'll open it anyway to the floor to anything that's not on the agenda to the public that most of you. No? Seeing none?
To the board?
Hmm?
That was to the board?
No, that was to the public that was leaving.
There's a member over there.
Yes, so if there's anything that you would like to say about something that's not on the agenda, please, now's the time. No? Okay. We are going to shuffle some things right now because we have a resolution that we do need to deal with. And that is resolution number 2025-20, which is the award of the required disclosure professional service agreement for Neglia Group LLC, the new comprehensive master plan. I'd like to state that the reason for this resolution is based on master plan work solely. Previous resolutions and previous agreements with Neglia were for work having been done for the planning board separate of the master plan. So this resolution and this contract award is solely for master plan work.
Yes, and board, this is a nice job to Dory and the purchasing agent put this together. I did review it. It is complies with form. It's in your package, and it's the one that says resolution of the planning board of the Township of Sparta authorizing the award of the required disclosure of professional service agreement with Neglia Group, resolution number 2025-20. Again, I have reviewed it. It's in an acceptable form. The contract is attached to it, and I'd recommend its approval. Pass
Can I
it.
make a motion to approve that? Do we have?
Yes, please.
Rob was one and Jeanette was two?
Correct.
Thank you. Birgit Bogler?
Yes.
Jeanette
Discussion.
Burke?
Wait,
Oh.
is there any discussion here?
Okay. Oh,
We're talking about Neglia being
Yeah.
hired and their fees, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did a little research because there was a question about whether, is it the correct way to bill as Neglia does? Or is it the correct way to bill as Mr. Simmons does? And that would be, Mr. Simmons bulk bills the town and the town ends up paying for it. And then,
I'm going to just interrupt you 1 minute because the motion is for the master
yeah,
plan.
it's specific to this,
I got-
this
I
resolution.
heard
But go
something
back
else.
to that.
Okay, we'll come back to
Okay.
that. All right. That'll be fun.
So do we want to do a roll call?
Well,
Oh, you have, all right, sorry.
Absolutely, if discussion's not over, if you still have a question.
I guess my question is, you know, as I was going through this before, and I had asked many times for the amount that we had to use, and that what was budgeted for master plan, we were told 75,000. So that was for this year. Is this contract going to span into next year? Because this year, I don't want to go over budget. And where did this additional money come from in the budget if it was only limited to 75? So I'd just like to get a little background on it and see how it's
If
going to
I
be
could,
applied,
for-
because we were very strict with that number.
Yeah, if I could for the board, good question, Joan. The purchasing agent and the construction department or the land use group has confirmed the available funds. The paragraph, whereas the chief financial officer certified that the funds are available, they have the account number, and it does put a budget not to exceed $96,770, which is in conformity. So in my professional opinion, there are dedicated funds that the chief financial officer has dedicated in your form of government under the Faulkner Act. The administrator for the township does have the ability to transfer funds pursuant to law. So again, these are dedicated funds and has been confirmed by the purchasing agent and the chief financial officer.
All right, as long as the funds are available, and I just want to make sure they're not going to be taking from something else that we might need to do.
I'm satisfied they're specifically identified.
Okay.
Wouldn't we have been able to move the master plan faster and get some of these reports if we knew the amount of money that was available?
Sure.
Ultimately, the work for the master plan that's been ongoing. I mean, the way the budget works, right? The budget is handled by the council, and Mark, you should know this because you went through the process, right? So the budget is handled for everything at the beginning of the year, right? So once the budget is set, it is what it is. It's set in stone. So when we come to a point where we start depleting that, or we're coming to the end of what's been allotted for us for this given year, then it's up to Dory and other members of the municipal building to confer with each other to make a determination as to whether or not there's something else available to potentially pull from. But we don't address those issues until we're at that point, which luckily, thankfully, we're not. Right now, the issue at hand is the award of the contract in its entirety to Neglia for the duration of the process. If we were to have come to the end of our 75,000 before the end of the year, then we would be having the conversation as to what else do we need? How much would that look like? You know, what would that look like? Where does it need to come from? But we're not there yet, so we're fortunate in that process that Neglia thus far has been capable of staying within the confines of what's been allotted for this year. And Mark, when the budget comes up next year, you will be capable of saying, okay, we spent 75,000. It looks like we still need this amount more. And you guys at the council level get to allot us what we would need remaining for the remainder of the project.
Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
All right, so you guys done?
Any more discussion? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just one
Yes, sure.
point. So I'm gonna probably go further than I should here, so, feel free to tell me, hey, Dave, back off. One concerns I've been expressing lately is that, and to the town council, when you look at the funds, things that aren't needed this year, can you hold off appropriating them until next year? So I gotta ask the same question here. Is there anything in here that we don't think we'll be spending this year that we could hold off till appropriating till next year? And if the answer is no, then I'm okay.
Well, just to back you up a little, at the master plan subcommittee, we decided we were going to do background study, the land use element, and the circulation element with the transportation vision, and that got us to about the 75. So that's really what we should be sticking with.
All right, well, if I could just add, you really have a great municipality. I've been very impressed with what you do, and the proposal you have here on the goals and objective land use plan, circulation element implementation, final public input session, GIS service. By fulfilling all those requirements, you are giving attorneys and professionals the mechanism to help us defend you in litigation and get your goals put. So the proposal at the 96,000 is higher than 75. But I would say, in my professional opinion, I would go with the full amount that has been identified and dedicated, and just gives you an A+ project versus an A project. So I would recommend that, since there are funds appropriated and identified, that you pass the resolution as proposed.
So the question then I have, right, so the 96,000 is for the entirety of the project?
It's for I'm assuming if I add up these numbers, they come up to 96,770.
Right, so that's for the entirety of the project, yes?
That's for the entirety of the project with all of the elements that are required by state statute. And then inclusive of that is also the circulation element, which is not a requirement, but we felt that it was necessary for the consideration because there's a number of traffic issues within the township. So that was added in as well.
Okay, so because the duration of the project is not going to be within the confines of this year.
Yeah, so
right?
we anticipate this to go into next year as well. So things like, to kind of answer Ron's question a little bit, so things like implementation, final public input session, those are going to be things that are on the tail end of the project. Also, to kind of answer Joan's question, I think the math was done on just the elements, but it didn't include the addition of public input sessions, implementation, the other things that are incorporated into doing the plan, right? So there's the writing of the plan, but then there's also the public outreach and the pieces in the end where we have to go to all the different board meetings. We have to go to public input sessions. It's not just write the plan and it's adopted.
So this carries us through middle of next year.
Yes, I think with the Gantt chart that I think Luke presented, it's going to have us going into Q2 of next year.
And gang, feel comfortable, I have a pretty good background in municipal accounting, that under your form of government, on the Faulkner Act, let's say at the end of the year, in this dedicated fund, there's still 50,000 there. The regulations of the state of New Jersey allow for certain transfer funds. They allow certain activity that the business administrator or under the Faulkner Act has some power to do. But the nice thing about this resolution is that it is authorizing and dedicating these, the four corners of this agreement. As far as the accounting of whether it's 2025, 2026, we'll leave that to your business administrator, but I'm comfortable that it's not going to negatively impact your tax base or your budget.
And also just to the way that we do billing, and Dory can chime in as well, is it's not a lump sum on this day, you're sending all of that. We do monthly billing based on that. So you're trickling down from that. It won't go over that, but we're trickling down. So if you say, by the end of this year, we don't want to go over that 75,000, we can keep an eye on the budget and make sure it doesn't go over that number or come close to that number, so that next year we can go into the remainder of the budget to finish the project as well.
Well, I guess that's the biggest question, and I'm the biggest proponent of the master
Yeah,
plan.
yeah, absolutely.
I want to see it go, but as Mark said, if we knew the money was there, we could have been that much further along. We could have done stuff a lot earlier, so.
Yeah, and we
that's
have
the
been
only
working.
Question, is like, if the money was there.
Yeah, I mean, we have been, Neglia has been going to stakeholder meetings, and we have been doing a number of things and working on this prior to this even being, this proposal being accepted, which is not normal. Normally we have to be authorized to begin doing the work, but we've been doing work behind the scenes, going to meetings. We've done presentations for the work in kind of good faith, knowing that this was going to be coming. And you guys have been trickling down, like Dory's been doing a great job of giving us an idea of like where we should be billing and how we should be billing to make sure that we are also getting paid to do the work. But typically the way, and Ken, I don't know if you've dealt with it differently, typically we put a proposal, the proposal gets approved and then we do the work, but we've been doing the work on the back end. Yeah, no, you don't have to thank me. It's just, we've been able to work it out. So in addition to that, we can also keep an eye on the budget. Like Councilman Scott said, if that is a number that you guys don't feel comfortable exceeding for this year, we can keep an eye on the budget and make sure it does not exceed that and go into the next year as well.
Well, apparently we can. I just, it's new news.
Are we comfortable? Yes. Ready to make vote? Okay, so we have a motion and a second still on the table. We just need a roll call.
Birgit Bogler,
Yes.
Jeanette Burke. Yes. Ron Day,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad,
Yes.
Councilman Mark Scott,
Yes.
Brian Zimmerman,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Robert Otto,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a second resolution on the agenda that,
Yeah, I just have to tweak the prior resolution, and Dory did give me some additional information to just confirm, so I'll have that at your next meeting.
okay, great. It is 10:15, but I think it might be prudent to very quickly, if we can, go through updates as brief as possible, unless anybody's opposed and wants to adjourn. Updates?
Adjourn.
Okay. So if that's the case, then I will very quickly say, state that the master plan subcommittee met this past Monday. We are in the process of stakeholder meetings, and the reason for my announcement is that we are working toward putting together larger scale stakeholder meetings, hopefully within the confines of October. So please stay tuned. We should be making announcements on more specific information in the coming weeks. Other than that, we can have an adjournment. Ernie?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
I asked if you guys wanted a break. I did.